Good Saturday evening, everyone. Forecaster Josiah Acheampong here. We're going to start off by taking a quick look at our sky cam there in Channing, seeing flashes of lightning often in the background, showing all that convective energy. Most of it can be a mix of cloud to cloud lightning or cloud to ground lightning. So definitely a reason to stay indoors, especially considering that some of these are severe thunderstorm warned. So taking a look now at our radar, we see some strong storms making their way, severe storms making their way out of eastern New Mexico right now in Hartley County, but we do have a new severe thunderstorm warning in Oldham County. That's going to have 2-inch hail and 70-mile-per-hour winds. So we're talking about hen, egg, or lime-sized hail falling from the sky, along with gusty winds up to 70 miles an hour. That's making its way from Hartley County and entering portions of Oldham County. That severe thunderstorm warning will last until 12:30 Central Time. Now we have two uh, supercells here making their way through eastern New Mexico and into, again, the Texas Panhandle. And we have a few severe thunderstorm warnings associated with that, with the newest one being until 12:30, warned for lime-sized hail, as well as winds gusting up to 70 miles an hour. But it's not just that. We also are keeping an eye to our north, our neighbors in Kansas. We have a really strong severe storm making its way through Ulysses right now. That has a severe thunderstorm warning attached to it that'll expire for them at 11:45 tonight. But it's this line of storms that's coming through Kansas that can enter into portions of the Oklahoma panhandles and make their way eventually into the Texas panhandle should they hold up. The atmosphere is quite conducive for these thunderstorms, but we will see what happens as the night progresses. In addition to those warnings, we still do have a severe thunderstorm watch that'll last until 12 a.m. or midnight tonight. That'll include Cimarron County, Hartley, and Dallam County. And again, that goes until midnight tonight. But paired with that will be an aerial flood watch. That's mainly for our eastern counties. Um, and we're also going to have likely a new watch for most of the panhandles that'll be associated with those severe thunderstorm watches. So let's take a look back at the severe thunderstorm watch as it stands right now. Again, mainly encompassing Hartley, Dallam, and Cimarron counties. In the future, hopefully within the next hour or two, at some point, we can expect additional watches to be issued largely for the Texas Panhandle at large. Now, taking a look again at our watches and warnings, we have an area flood watch that has been posted for the eastern portion of the Texas Panhandle as well as for the Oklahoma Panhandles, and that'll last until 9 a.m. tomorrow or tomorrow morning. Yes, tomorrow morning. As those storms continue to move through, because some of these storms can dump anywhere between 2 to 4 inches an hour. In fact, we've had some storms earlier today out of eastern New Mexico that dropped a lot of rain in a short amount of time. Radar estimates showed anywhere between 3 to 5 inches of rain fell there. We'll wait to see what the actual confirmation is on some of those rainfall rates and how much they actually received. But taking a look right now at our severe outlook across the Texas Panhandle, most of us are in a level 2 out of 5 risk, or the slight risk there in yellow. That's consisting of hail that we can expect to see up to ping pong sized, although we have seen instances where some of these storms have produced lime sized hail in certain instances. Earlier today, or not that long ago, we had a destructive tag associated with the severe thunderstorm warning that had baseball sized hail associated with it. But again, the main threats: ping pong sized hail, winds that can gust up to 75 miles an hour. The tornado threat is a low one. We are going to monitor it in case there is some kind of rotation in some of these strong storms, severe storms that do develop, but the chance is low for tornadic development, and flooding also is going to be possible. That's why we do have a medium risk for flooding to occur in a wide swath of the Texas Panhandle this evening, as those storms could dump a lot of rain in a short amount of time. However, don't let your guard down tonight, because as we get into tomorrow, we could be dealing with another day of severe weather. It is going to be a marginal risk, a level 1 out of 5 for severe storms. However, the threats, again, hail can be up to a quarter size, winds can gust up to 70 miles an hour, low tornado chance, and flooding threat remains isolated. Although the threat is a little bit lower overall for tomorrow, we do just want to keep aware of the chance for storms to occur. Now let's time all this out over the next several hours. We do have some storms making their way through Kansas. Keep a close eye at the timing. At midnight, we can expect storms possibly making their way through portions of the Oklahoma Panhandle. Then we fast forward to 2 a.m. Those storms make their way into portions of the northern Texas Panhandle, Perryton, Dumas. You want to keep an eye to the sky, Borger as well. We get to 4 a.m. We watch these storms make their way closer to Amarillo, Clarendon, Shamrock, along the I-40 corridor, especially east of Amarillo. We can expect these storms to fire up. But even if you're in Guyman, the model's indicating that some additional storms can develop on the back end after that original line makes its way through earlier this evening. We go into Sunday, 7 a.m. These storms can still make their way through. In fact, we actually have a new tornado warning that's been issued for Dallam,
Oldham, for Hartley County.
For Hartley,
so
and
it's that southernmost supercell.
Yeah, let's take a look. Let's take a look back at that. Mine actually hasn't updated just yet, but it should pop up here shortly with that tornado warning. And we'll take a look. Once it does, just pop up.
It's a couple minutes. It's like 60 seconds earlier than that one. I don't know why.
Interesting. But in any case, yes. So we do have a severe thunderstorm warning in effect, but in addition to that, we do have a new tornado warning that's been issued for parts of Hartley and Oldham County. And now I do want to take a look at there it is. Yeah, tornado warning that includes Hartley County as well as Oldham County. I want to get closer in to see what's in that area.
It's radar indicated, but they did get a report of a tornado.
Okay. So yeah, so this is radar indicated, but there has been a report of a tornado on the ground. So this is not a confirmed one, but it is something that has been reported and radar, and something that's been seen and noticed on the radar as well. So we do have that new tornado warning.
And 2-inch hail associated with it too.
As well as the 2-inch hail. So lime-sized hail that could be falling. Yes, and we actually do have Corbin here. All hands on deck.
The tornado bomb. Yes, yeah, like as soon as possible. Okay. Do you want to drive?
Drive this?
Yeah.
Oh, I can.
Because we're going to do this on the green screen.
Great. All right, so, the tornado warning. What do you want out of
We're going to do the tornado warning first. Just keep it in analysis, and I'll just kind of help guide you, and just like I'll give you some audio cues of like, here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to look at. I may so pull up your 2020 new here. Scroll down to Skycams, and then I may have you pull up Channing. Every now and then, and just stand by.
I'll follow you.
Can you click on that one? Oh, you got it.
Yep.
Good Saturday evening, everyone. We are breaking into programming for a tornado warning that was just issued there in parts of southern Hartley County, as well as a good portion of the northern side of Oldham County. The storm is really moving over into the Canadian River Valley, but it is well west of Channing and Boyce Ranch and Hartley. So fortunately, this is a fairly rural portion of the country, but there are still probably some people out there that need to heed this warning. Again, it is in effect until midnight tonight. It is radar indicated, but there was a report of a tornado. So again, it does look like that supercell has the conditions in the environment around it to allow it to potentially try and produce tornadoes, at least here in the short term. There's 2 supercells here. This warning is for the easternmost cell here in the Texas Panhandle. We've also got this cell that's right there kind of on the state line north of Narrabisa. That one's moving to the southeast as well. These are again going to be 2 supercells that we'll have to monitor closely through the next couple of hours. Again, we've got plenty of wind shear for these to maintain that supercell characteristic, which just means that they are rotating. for at least the next several hours. Again, this is going to be an overnight event for us tonight. These are very isolated and discrete, moving through an environment that hasn't really been touched by any storms through the afternoon hours. So again, these are going to be moving into a very warm, rich, and moist environment that's going to allow them to potentially cycle. And again, we could see these occlude. They'll probably re-ramp back up. You can see there's a pretty good hook on that westernmost one now. This one's starting to become more HP-based, high precipitation. Jump over to the storm relative velocities real quick. Just want to take a look at some of those. Again, we're not seeing any visual cues on radar of some really tight rotation within this storm. Maybe a little bit of rotation as it came across Highway 54. That may have been where that report came from with the tornado. But again, the environment's certainly there. They are supercells. They are spinning. So it is something that we'll have to watch closely. Let's go ahead and jump back over to reflectivity and take kind of a whole view of the region, just to show you that we do have some other storms to the north. We've got some coming into Cimarron County. These have really started to ramp up here within the last 5 to 10 minutes. These will probably start to reach severe status here in the next 10 to 15 minutes. We also have a couple of other storms up there in Kansas as well. If we want to jump up to that Dodge City radar, we can take a closer look at some of these. These are more of a complex as they make their way through portions of southwest Kansas. You can see Ulysses getting hammered by some very heavy rain right now. This is actually an embedded supercell. This one's also spinning. The cell out here west of Johnson also spinning too. So again, we kind of talked about that the last few days. We expected these storms to be somewhat of a congealed mess, but we may get some of those embedded areas of rotation with them. So these are some storms that we're going to have to watch for places like Tyrone, Hooker, back over into Beaver County as they make their way into the Oklahoma Panhandle. Let's take a real quick look at our SkyCam enchanting before we get you back to programming. You can see that this is some of those tornado warn cells out there on the western portion of the viewing area. Again, just go ahead and just double click it and just let it load in right there. And so you can see this is the SkyCam there enchanting. Don't see anything visually, just a lot of lightning, some very heavy rain out there. But again, this is that tornado warn storm that we're going to have to keep an eye on. Again, don't see any significant rotation on radar. So for now, we're going to keep carrying this live on YouTube. If you don't have our Storm Search 7 weather app, scan that QR code on the left-hand side of your screen. For now, we're going to get you back to programming. Just know we're likely to have some busy weather through the overnight hours tonight. All right, so
Is he still on it? Wow, there we go. All right. What a hit. All right. So we're still back here looking at this.
yeah, jump back over to Amarillo's radar.
Boom. There we go.
So if you guys are just now tuned in, we've got a tornado warning out there on the west side of the Panhandle. It's mainly over in Hartley and Oldham County. This is actually two different cells. You've got one to the east there near Corner Windmill, excuse me, and then Old Farm Crossing. You guys fall within that tornado warning, which is in effect until midnight tonight. We also have that other supercell, which actually looks a bit better visually on radar than the one that's currently warned. But it does look like these are still moving into an untapped environment. Haven't really seen a whole lot of storm activity through the afternoon and evening hours. So they're just moving through an area that's got a lot of rich, warm, moist air that's just, again, ready for these storms to utilize and feed off of. We got enough wind shear to have these semi-discrete supercells, at least in the short term. High-resolution models have these storms that you're looking at with Josiah. They actually could make their way all the way down to the I-40 corridor west of Amarillo. At the current direction they're moving, areas like Adrian and Vega and Wildorado need to be paying attention to these storms as they track to the south and east. Again, we don't see a tremendous amount of rotation within them, but there was a report as the storm came across Highway 54 that there was a potential tornado on the ground, and so that's why they went ahead and issued that warning, which is radar indicated. Again, if you're looking, you can see that relative velocity doesn't look all that impressive. You maybe have seen just a little bit of rotation there near Romero as it came across Highway 54, but it was really faint. Didn't last very long. So if there was a tornado, it was brief. It was pretty weak. But again, the conditions are there. This is not the biggest concern we have for tonight, but We still have a low chance for tornadoes tonight, especially with these semi-discrete supercells in the Western Panhandle. They're feeding into an environment that hasn't been tapped into yet. Zoom on out, Josiah. Let's take a look at some of the storms coming in from the north as well. We've got storms coming out of Colorado. That stuff's pretty recent to have developed up there north of Boise City. That may be some stuff inevitably, here in several hours that places like Dumas, Borger, Pampa, maybe even us here in Amarillo will have to keep a close watchful eye on. Right now, it looks like that tornado warning storm is going to be passing to the west of Amarillo. So Amarillo proper currently not in the warning, well away from us. It's about 70 miles away. So it's not a threat to our communities. And again, the current direction that the storm's moving would not expect us to be under any kind of tornadic potential with that storm. You do see an outflow boundary to our north that may allow for some additional storm development right there, but from Borger extending all the way over to that tornado warning storm. That's the outflow boundary. So we may get some additional development along that. We'll have to keep an eye on. They're going to issue a new severe thunderstorm watch that's going to be in effect until 6 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. This will be issued for the entire Texas and Oklahoma panhandles. We'll go ahead and jump back on the Tyreek whenever we get a chance. So just give it here, just tell them to have to sit on standby. I want to wait till the severe thunderstorm watch shows up. So once we have this new severe thunderstorm watch issued, let's go ahead, go live with the tornado bump since we still have the warning. But do want to do another cut in.
Do you want to start with the tornado bump? I mean, with the
Yeah, we'll start with the tornado stuff, and
Okay.
then just kind of zoom out, and you can click off of it and just show everyone that the new severe thunderstorm watch.
Okay. Do you still want the reflectivity on it? Well, I have to actually still be in here.
That's fine.
Okay.
We've got an active radar where there's no any reason to get off of the analysis tab today because this is all overnight. I mean, we'll watch Channing and Bushland's cameras, but
All right.
it's going to be hard to get any kind of visual representation of what's happening underneath these storms outside of radar, unless someone's just right next to this storm.
I wonder who was able to see this storm.
It's probably someone from Romero, because I mean that hook went right there in your town. So if there was anything, that's where I would imagine it came from.
And we were looking at the Channing Tam, and that's when we were looking at it, wasn't it?
Yeah. The interesting looking cloud.
The interesting looking cloud. That's what we'll say. A reported possible tornado that is now radar indicated.
I will say that the storm doesn't look that good visually on radar.
But its sister
For
one
you guys
looks
that are listening on YouTube,
really nice.
the western cell looks a lot more impressive than the one that's tornado warned right now. So there's Josiah zooming in on that one. You can see that we've got a pretty good hook echo on that one. So this is more of your classic feature of a supercell. So they're northeast of Naravisa. Yeah, so you can see that hook's just come across Highway 54. Go ahead and check velocities just to see what it looks like down here. So there's a little bit of rotation, but it's not crazy.
Base velocity shown.
So they issued a new severe thunderstorm warning for Cimarron County. That's going to be for 1-inch hail and 60-mile-per-hour winds. Go ahead and jump up. And again, that's that stuff that we've seen coming up of Colorado here recently. So again, that's this stuff here up towards Kenton, up on the northern sides there in Castaneda. And when are they going to get this watch out?
Now let me go back to that. Both supercells are now into Texas over Hartley. Both continue to move southeast. Okay.
So again, this one's marginally severe. We've got 1-inch hail here, 60-mile-an-hour winds.
This is Oklahoma Panhandle. Who does that belong to? Cimarron is us.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's right there. Blind. Yeah, 60-mile-an-hour winds, quarter-size tail.
So they do have a big warning box covering both of those supercells too for a severe storm. both continuing to move south and east. Let's jump back over to those supercells. You can probably get rid of your hand drawing too. And so what you're looking at is two semi-discrete supercells. These are not discrete. They're probably starting to compete with one another. The back one's actually almost getting like whipped around. The eastern cell certainly catching up to it. We may watch these weaken slightly as they start to interact with one another here in the next 15 to 30 minutes. I would imagine we'll get one main dominant supercell here with, in about an hour, hour and a half or so, as these start to compete for the same fuel and the same energy out ahead of these storms.
$25 miles an hour?
Yeah. Do you want to extend that time for 60 minutes? Remember how to do that?
Yep, I definitely do. Don't. Hold on. We're here, right?
Yeah, right click on it.
Uh-huh.
There you go.
Boom.
So now you've, instead of 45 minutes, maybe run it out like 60 or 90 minutes. There you go. So now you've got Adrian and Vega and stuff added on there, so that's good. Let's go ahead and do another cut in, Tyreek. I'm not sure when they're going to get this blocked out.
I'll clear this.
Just leave that there.
I'll leave that?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Ready whenever you are. What is it? Are they saying anything in chat?
Let me go back.
Chat.
Amarillo's quiet.
Stand by.
Everyone's quiet. It's out. The watch is out.
Good Saturday evening, everyone. We're taking a quick look at that tornado warning storm still making its way through the western side of Hartley and Oldham County. It does look like we just got a new severe thunderstorm watch as well, which we'll talk about here in a moment. But that tornado warning, it's going to continue until midnight tonight. It's for this eastern supercell, that eastern cell that you see there north of Corner Windmill, and then making its way down to the south and east towards Old Farm Crossing. So the expected time of arrival for you for Old Farm Crossing, if there is going to be any tornado potential with this, it doesn't look nearly as good as it did from a supercell standpoint, 5 or 10 minutes ago. But your timing is 11:42 p.m. So other areas maybe down the Highway 40 corridor, like Vega and Adrian, you can also see that you guys have your time listed out there as well. So again, Vega around 12:33, Adrian at 12:34. These are actually two supercells. There's the one here and then one further to the west. This western one's actually starting to catch up and move a bit faster than the one on the east side. So they're starting to actually compete with one another for the inflow, the more moist air out ahead of these storms. These may start to interact with one another. They may become a bit messier. They may weaken some, which would be good news for that tornado potential as they get a little bit more discombobulated. We'll probably see one main parent thunderstorm emerge here within the next 60 to 90 minutes out of this stuff. I would be hard to press to say that this is going to be, not getting to the I-40 corridor. I expect this to continue southeast through a good chunk of the area. Let's take a full look at the DMA and show you. We do have that severe thunderstorm watch that's going to be in effect until actually 6 o'clock in the morning. And we've talked about this the last day or two. We expected to have an overnight nocturnal severe weather threat for tonight into Sunday morning. Does look like that's starting to be realized. We've obviously got the one tornado warning storm out there in the western panhandle. We do have a newer severe thunderstorm warning that just got issued there in Cimarron County. If we want to zoom in on that one, that one's more marginal. It's 1-inch hail and 60-mile-per-hour winds. This one's moving to the southeast at 25 miles an hour towards Boise City. Again, this is just a wind and a hail threat with this stuff out here. And a lot of that stuff up in Kansas as well. going to pose mostly a wind and hail risk too, but we will start to see some flooding become an issue as some of the rain rates that you may deal with are between 2 and 4 inches per hour. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of that stuff up there in Kansas real quick on that other radar. You can see Johnson and Ulysses kind of on the back side of some of these stronger cells. This is actually an embedded supercell in here. There is some minor rotation just in some pockets out here in the southwest side of Kansas. So you're talking about Stevens, just north of Stevens there at Ulysses. Again, that severe thunderstorm warning in effect until 12:15 a.m. So areas like Liberal, Hugoton, Beaver, all of you guys are outside of the warning box, but these storms are moving in your direction. So again, this is kind of just the start of what will be a very active night overnight tonight. Let's go ahead and jump back down to those supercells down in the western panhandle. Again, this is radar indicated. It is not confirmed that there is a tornado on the ground, but there was a report up near Romero as it came across Highway 54 that there was a possible tornado as it was coming across the highway. So that's why they went ahead and issued that warning there. But we do have, again, I really want to watch this westernmost cell. This one still has that kind of hook appendage on it where you've got more of that classic look to the storm. Again, that's just where you've got some of that rotation in here. Let's look at storm relative velocity. Just see what it looks like. You can see there is a little bit of some rotation in there. It's not really a couplet. It's kind of weak and spotty, but it is something that we'll have to keep in mind and watch closely here over the next couple of scans if that one can continue to, again, become the dominant storm cell as they move into Oldham County. Again, they're kind of out in the open country, areas like Corner Windmill, Old Farm Crossing. You guys are in the crosshairs downstream of these storms. Areas of rotation look to be, probably halfway between Aravisa and then zoom in a little bit back over there towards Corner Windmill. So you guys not really around the rotation. That's right there just to the east of the state line. That's where the spin would be in that storm. There is a very big hail core in this thing. We're talking about 2-inch hail, lime size, up to the size of 2 inches in diameter that can cause considerable amounts of damage. And again, we've got that other storm, which doesn't look nearly as good as it did. So I would be really hesitant to say that there's a realized tornado threat with that one at this point in time. This one, again, I think we'll have to keep an eye on. Let's jump over to our Skycam in Channing and just see what these storms look like. Again, we're kind of looking in the forward flanks of these storms at this point. You can kind of see, again, we're on the backside of them at this point too. You can see just a lot of lightning and some very heavy rain. Let's see what it looks like from Bushland, if that storm looks any different. They're still pretty far away, so you may not get a whole lot of low-lying features and visual cues on these storms. We're going to have to rely a lot on radar and storm spotter observations from these storms for the overnight hours. But you can see, again, the lightning doesn't look as prevalent as it was either with these storms, but those are the ones that are tornado warned.
And they canceled the warning for the tornado.
They canceled the tornado warning for these storms there, so that's some good news. So let's go ahead and jump back to radar before we get you back to programming. Again, that one did just lose its tornado warning tag, which again, it didn't look as good as it did earlier in terms of supercell potential and rotation, but I do want to keep a very watchful eye on that storm just east of Naravisa. That one looks like it's got more of a hook echo to it. And zooming back out, just show everyone those storms that are moving into the northern panhandle. So you can see we've got a severe warning storm in Cimarron County. Expecting a lot of this stuff to develop up here. All of this here is expected to fill in. You'll probably start as semi-discrete cells, a kind of an embedded supercell structure, which you're dealing with right now in Kansas. As these storms move south and east, we're going to lose some wind shear. So we'll probably start seeing less and less of the supercell storm mode and a lot more of those linear storm complex modes, and that wind threat would become the biggest concern at that point. Again, straight line winds would be our primary issue, which they could be as high as 75 to potentially 80 miles an hour in some of those strongest cells that we have for tonight. So that would be our biggest issue. We're going to go ahead and get you back to programming here in a second. If you don't have our Storm Surge 7 weather app, you can scan the QR code there on the left-hand side of your screen. So you can stay weather aware with us here at Storm Surge 7. We are carrying this live on YouTube. So if you do want to stay up to date with the weather 24/7 tonight, we'll be live there.
Yeah, they just did it 11:40. They canceled it.
Yeah, and for you guys that are tuned in right now, asking about the tornado potential, it is a relatively low concern for tonight. We're not expecting it to be the main hazard this evening. A lot more of us are going to be dealing with that damaging wind threat And really right now, there's only one good supercell, at least visually, that's still pretty potent, is the one down there. Yeah, Josiah's got it pinpointed right there just east of Naravisa. That one's moving into the northwest corner of Oldham County. This is going to come through the Canadian River Valley. There's not a lot out there. There are a few people probably that got that warning. How long is that severe thunderstorm warning run until?
This one runs until
12:15, was it?
12:30.
12:30. And that one was, I believe, 2-inch hail.
Yeah, they upgraded that one to 2 inches.
Yeah, and 70-mile-an-hour winds. So that's the strongest cell we have inside the viewing area right now, east of Naravisa, 2-inch hail. And so you see that black spot in the middle of that storm, that's your hail core. You can actually see this is actually a 3-body scatter spike. So what you're seeing here is the radar beams actually bouncing around. So how a radar works is you have that scan sent out, runs into all the hydrometeors, the hail, the rain, and that bounces back to the radar. Well, what's happening in this storm, since there's so much hail in it, that radar beam actually bounces off a bunch of several different meteorological objects and sources inside that storm. And so it takes just a little bit longer for it to get back to the radar. And that delayed timing makes the radar think that there's actually reflectivity further away, just based off of that delayed reaction. But it's actually, from just observations and analysis, that it's just a lot of hail that's inside that storm aloft. And if you hover over it, we can get a view of the heights here where that scan's coming through. So we're actually scanning that storm at about 5,500 feet in elevation. So you're talking about 1.6, 1.7 kilometers off the ground. So that's still pretty high up. So that stuff's going to melt to a degree before it gets down. When you get hail spikes like that, you're probably talking about baseball size, at least aloft. But again, our melting layer or our freezing layer is actually at about 18,000 feet today. And so where this hail's being detected and picked up, it's above freezing in the atmosphere there. So that hail is melting on its way down to the ground. So even though we've got the 3-body scatter spike, some of that hail is going to not be to that size when it gets to the surface. If you guys did miss it, we do have that severe thunderstorm watch in effect. That's been extended to cover the entirety of the Texas and Oklahoma panhandle, with the exception of that southern row of counties. So from Deaf Smith east to Collinsworth County is the southernmost portion of that watch, which will again be in effect until basically sunrise tomorrow, or at least a little bit before then. So kind of in your pre-dawn hours. So again, we talked about this yesterday. We had some web stories posted about it. Nocturnal severe weather threat, pending tonight. That threat is becoming realized with these storms starting to billow up in the area. Those two supercells seem to be competing for energy. That easternmost one seems to really have lost its punch. The western one definitely has got a much better hail core, much stronger core in it. What does it look like on velocities here? So there is some rotation there. That is something to keep an eye on. You can zoom in a little bit more on that area of spin.
For this one.
Yeah, so you're zoom in, see if we can get any of these small farm to market roads and whatnot, small town roads. So yeah, there's not a whole lot out here. So, but you can see there is some rotation there. So green is your winds heading to the radar, red's heading away. So there is some spin on this storm. Let me see if I can get maybe a better view from our Bushland cam. Yeah, these overnight storms tend to be a little bit more problematic just because we're kind of limited in being able to visually see these and watch these storms as they make their way through the area.
I mean, you've got some strong winds aloft, at least up here.
In that other cell, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's warned for 70-mile-per-hour winds. They did issue an aerial flood advisory for those two storms too. That's in the Canadian River Valley. So if you know anyone that lives in the river valley, they are under that aerial flood advisory. But there is some rotation in that storm, that westernmost cell. It's in the northwest corner of Oldham County. So corner windmill. I think you guys are going to see the brunt of this, at least the worst of that cell, as it moves to the south and east. So just be prepared for hail as large as limes and winds up to 70 miles an hour with this storm as it's making its way through the area. It's again moving into Oldham County. You can see the hail core here. This thing is moving southeast at about 25 miles an hour. Let's go ahead and just kind of put a squall line track on this just to give you guys a general view or understanding. So Noblaw, it's 11:51 is your expected time of arrival. So here in the next few minutes, corner windmill, 11:53. Adrian and Vega, you guys are downwind of this storm. Again, it's not an immediate threat to you. Those are our two populated areas there downstream of this storm. But Adrian expected around 12:46, so you've got like an hour before this could potentially be an issue for you guys. So plenty of time to just make sure that you're staying weather ready and weather aware. You may want to just keep a very watchful eye on the radar down there in Adrian and Vega. The storm's moving south and east. I would imagine that western cell is going to be your problem cell. The one on the east does look like it is continuing to dissipate. Yeah, they're looking at what we're looking at in the western side of the county, that rotation, that low-level rotation. Unfortunately, we don't really see anything visually on our Skycam there in Bushland, but this is still pretty far away, and it's going to pass to the west, so we probably won't see the hook feature of that storm.
Both of those storms are starting to become almost one.
You're getting some competing cells for that inflow. And usually what you call the tail end Charlie storm or the western or southwesternmost cell usually has a lot more warm, moist air to work with than the ones further north and east, just with the way things that work here in the northern hemisphere. So they tend to win out more often than the northern cells do, unless it kind of runs into some, convective inhibition or maybe some dry air out ahead of it. But we've got a lot of moisture in the lower levels for today. I think West Texas mesonet sites were like depicting a lot of mid 70 degree or mid 60 degree dew points for this evening. So Romero, the dew point's 66. Boys Ranch is 66. So you're kind of like, inside and behind these storms. But Vega has a dew point of 63. Adrian has a dew point of 62, which is quite a bit, especially for the lower level, the lower cloud bases that we've got for tonight. When you get into these nocturnal events, usually we get a cap that builds in, which we do to a degree. The hope is these storms go from being surface-based to elevated. This is still very much a surface-based storm, though. Again, it's got quite a bit of rotation with it in those lower levels, which is one of the key indicating signs that it's still a surface-based thunderstorm. That stuff up in Cimarron County may be more elevated. It's got more of that bow feature look to it. You can see there's two updrafts out there in that segment of storms.
And almost moving east southeast. That was the last scan I just saw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, southeast at 25. I'll let you.
No, you're good.
Sorry,
I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes. I'm learning. Listen, this is a master at work here. Okay, so so I just sit back and let him drive. But in any case, again, we are watching numerous ones. In fact, the one down in Oldham County now has a destructive tag attached to it.
Baseball-sized hail on it.
Baseball-sized
hail. You can see that three-body scatter spike, that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
There you can see that really light green that's showing up over near Avisa.
Yeah.
It looks kind of like a spike, and that's what it's there for, what it's called, and it's just indicating that there's a lot of hail that's kind of impeding the way that the radar beam bounces back to the dish. there at the National Weather Service office. So you've got a lot of hail inside this storm. So this is really a big hailing supercell right now. That's destructive. When you get to baseball-sized hail, you're talking about getting close to 3 inches in diameter, which if it's wind blown, Canyon dealt with this earlier this year. They had some wind-blown baseball-sized hail. It blew out a lot of windows in town one night early in the morning. So there is some concern for that with this supercell.
Yeah.
In the summer months, I mean, we're in August. We're in the back half of summer. Usually, our tornado threat and our severe weather threat climatologically peaks at late May, early June. So we're away from the peak of our severe weather season, but we still get severe weather in the summer months, and that's common. What's a little bit uncommon about this setup is just how much directional wind shear we have in the lower levels. This is a northwest flow aloft event, so you've got those winds way up in the atmosphere blowing that cold air from the mountains over into the southern plains. And we've got the low level moisture for today, but it's just the way that the winds are set up. We've got winds at the southeast at the surface. You go up a little bit, they're from the southwest, and then they're from the west a bit higher, and eventually to the northwest when you get into those stronger winds up in the top layer of the atmosphere. And our wind shear is pushing around 35 to 40 knots for tonight. If you guys have listened to me talk, over the last several years, usually for supercell structure, we typically need about 35 knots, and we're in that 35 to 40 range. So that's why we've got supercells out here in the Western Panhandle. Now, as these storms move southeast, they do run into not necessarily a less favorable environment for severe weather, but the wind shear does dampen a bit. It falls down into like 25 to 30 knots of bulk shear instead of 35. So as these storms continue southeast and progress overnight tonight, we expect them to transition from a supercell mode, like what you're dealing with right now and looking at there in northern Oldham County, to more of a congealed mass. You're going to start seeing a lot of complexes form, or linear segments start to form, and you're starting to maybe get a little bit of that with these storms here in the north side of Oldham County. You still have that supercell there, but if it continues to move southeast far enough, it may eventually fall away from some of that really strong wind shear that's helping support that supercell potential.
And in fact, we're starting to see, with some of these reports starting to come in, Romero, one of their surface stations, had a wind gust of up to 74 miles an hour. That's going to be in the far northwestern portion of Oldham County. So we're talking about right over here, that they're getting that gusty wind of up to 74 miles an hour. But in addition, they're also seeing associated with these storms, with this one in particular, that they have a rain rate of up to 500ths of rain in a minute. So pretty much that translates to 3 inches in an hour. We're talking about relatively about 3 inches an hour of rain falling in a relatively less populous area. But no doubt, people who are currently residing in Corner Windmill, you're seeing hail, baseball sized hail, because again, this is destructive. This has a destructive tag associated with it, with again, baseball sized hail, with winds gusting up to 70 miles an hour, although we did get a report of a gust up to 74 miles an hour coming from that Romero station, and rainfall rates up to um, 3 inches per minute, 3 inches an hour rather. So that's indicate heavy rainfall rates, but that's also why we have the um, flash flood advisory that's been issued, or the flood advisory rather, that's been issued for Oldham and Hartley County, that will go until 1:45 this well 1:45 a.m. on Sunday. It's starting to get into the next day, but 1:45 on Sunday with some of these stronger storms. Again, that does have a destructive tag associated with it, more or less because of this hail core that we're seeing here that has baseball sized hail that's no doubt being blown and tossed around with those winds. Gusted, we have a report of gust up to 74 miles an hour, but it is tagged for winds up to 70 miles an hour. So no doubt we're seeing baseball sized hail being tossed around associated with this storm. So if you are outdoors for some reason, I would seek shelter if possible. as this strong storm, severe storm moves through the area. If you are in a vehicle currently, your best bet is to stay inside the vehicle and always protect your face as these hailstones get tossed around. Again, we're talking about baseball being hurled at between 70 to 74 miles an hour associated with this storm in particular. And Corbin previously was talking about the sister cell off to its east. I mean, in the last couple of frames, we've noticed that it's considerably weakened over the last several minutes or so as it started to share and fight for the same kind of energy and moisture that the cell that currently is off to its west, impacting places in the corner windmill right now. And that's what's going on there. Yeah. So the National Weather Service has said that 74-mile-an-hour wind gust was the highest at Romero. But since then, the wind gusts have decreased a bit associated with this storm. Now, I want to put the
Yeah, a lot of that stuff's going to be heading towards like Adrian and Vega and potentially Boys Ranch. It looks like Boys Ranch did fall within the edge of that polygon. Depending on which cell tower your phone's pinging off of, you may or may not have that warning that's registered on your phone or that alert on your phone. But if you're in the heart of this warning or this polygon, I mean, this has got some winds up to 70, 75 miles an hour heading towards I-40 there in Oldham County. So that's going to include Wildorado, Vega, Adrian, all the way back down towards Bard. I wouldn't rule you guys out for maybe seeing some severe weather potentially with this. Everett, you guys are in between Wildorado and Vega, Adrian. So what Josiah has done is he's just given you kind of a timeline or an expected time of arrival for the leading edge of the most intense portion of these thunderstorms. You may see the winds arrive a bit sooner than this, but as far as the heavy precipitation and the hail accompanied by the damaging winds, this is when you can expect that stuff to reach you. Adrian, timing right now is about 12:31 a.m. So you've got an hour and a half an hour to maybe start thinking about getting into shelter, getting away from the exterior walls of the home. Definitely stay away from those exterior windows. This storm's had a hail spike on it. It has a destructive tag on it. So this is due to baseball-sized hail on the northern side of Oldham County, and mainly that westernmost supercell up there where you see those pinks and blacks really showing up and popping inside the core of that storm. That is where the worst hail is going to be in this storm, which looks to be moving mainly towards Adrian. Vega and Everett, you guys may eventually fall under the warning as well. I would expect more of a very heavy rain and a damaging wind threat for some of those areas. We can't rule out some hail issues, but I don't think it's going to be to that maximized extreme of baseballs. That's going to be for that westernmost cell that's out there just on the west side of Corner Windmill.
Indeed. But again, while this is the most impactful severe thunderstorm that we have in the panhandle, we do have some strong severe storms impacting the Oklahoma panhandle there in Cimarron County. We do have a severe thunderstorm warning that's going into effect, that stays in effect until 12:30 Central Time. Actually, it's now Sunday. So it's now Sunday, midnight. So this current severe thunderstorm warning that's been issued for Cimarron County will last until 12:30, so about the next half hour or so. And that's been warned for winds up to 60 miles an hour and hail about an inch in diameter associated with those storms. But let's take a closer look.
I know it's outside of the viewing area, but the storms up near Ulysses that just went through there in the last half hour did produce some observed wind gusts up to 75 miles an hour. And so those are going to be moving towards Beaver County here, over the next hour or two. So will be something to definitely monitor for you guys.
How fast is it moving? If you're still in that.
Let me jump back in and look. It's moving southeast at 25.
At least they're consistent. So as we take a look at those strong storms coming out of Kansas and into portions of the Oklahoma Panhandle, no doubt.
They're warned for 60 right now, but they did produce some 75 gusts in Ulysses, Ulysses is on the backside of that storm right now.
Right, it's since passed through. So areas to the south of that in southern Kansas, talking about Woods, Archelon, Liberal. You can expect the storm to make its way to you in about another half hour or so. Liberal, 12:36. Woods, 12:10. Tice, within a minute or so, it's on its way to you, if not impacting you right now. But then when we talk about the Oklahoma Panhandle, if you're in Tyrone, Turpin, Flores, you definitely want to watch this storm as it tries to make its way to you over the next hour or so, a little bit more. We're talking about 1 a.m. for Tyrone, 106 Turpin, Flores, 116, and then no doubt Beaver. Uh, at some point, a little bit longer than an hour and a half out, you could be dealing with this storm that's currently with winds up to, I think you said 60 miles an hour before, Corbin, with that specific
Yeah,
one.
it's currently warned for 60, but
Currently,
it did have a history of producing winds as high as 75. That was the embedded supercell as it came through. So again, this
mm.
you can see it's kind of bowing out now. So the supercell threat I think is kind of diminishing with that stuff.
So the main threat with this, we'd likely see gusty winds.
Yeah, damaging winds and some very heavy rainfall. And rain rates 2 to 4 inches an hour. Some of this stuff may start training over the same locations too, and that would lead to that flood threat.
Taking a look at the panhandle at large, we can see we still do have that severe thunderstorm watch that's going to be in effect um, for everything north, with the exception of the extreme southern portion of the Texas Panhandle. So we're talking Jeff Smith County, you're involved, Randall, Armstrong, Donley, as well as Collingsworth. You're all going to be the southernmost extent of that severe thunderstorm watch, currently posted until 6 a.m. But again, circling back to that destructive severe thunderstorm warning over in portions of Oldham County that was warned for baseball-sized hail, with winds gusting up to 70 miles an hour. You can see here, corner windmill, you're still experiencing likely some strong gusty winds, heavy downpours as well. We still do have the flood advisory that's in effect, but this storm continues to move in a southeasterly direction. So Adrian, Vega, you're all Everett, Ford, at some point down the road, you'll likely be encountering this storm. While it may look like right now the eastern portion of it has weakened, um, we'll see that that western one still has that strong hail core. You can see the black, the dark purples, indicating some not only just strong downpours, but we're also seeing hail again, baseball size. Um, with the previous update from with this destructive tag that will last until 12:30 Central Time for Oldham County, as well. Technically, Hartley County still attached with this destructive tag as well. But just taking a quick look at relative storm relative velocity, um, we know that earlier this was the same two storms that had a previous history of being warned for having a tornado. Nothing was confirmed. It was radar indicated and reported by someone a little bit earlier this evening near Romero. But since then, we can see right now, I mean, generally the winds are probably going to be the biggest issue associated with this. Again, the hail as well, in addition to the heavy downpours. That's to why we still have that flood advisory that's posted for both Hartley and Oldham County currently. But again, the current rotation associated with these two storms, I mean, doesn't indicate at this point in time that we're seeing any kind of rotation. You can see a couple greens kind of embedded in there right now. Even the last scan, still a bit messy overall, but definitely something to keep an eye on. As again, it does have a history of being warned for a tornado, but not confirmed for a tornado. There's a difference. Um, and we'll see what happens as the night progresses, because as Corbin has said numerous times this evening, these storms are kind of heading into an area that's slightly less conducive for these storms to maintain their current strength. When we talk about the makeup of what's in the atmosphere, whether that's the shear that helps with these storms, also a bit of the moisture content as well as they move further south into portions of Deaf Smith County and then eventually Palmer. And we'll see if they make it that far, but down the road, we'll see if they're able to maintain their strength. But I do want to take a moment and circle back to that storm up in Cimarron County that still has its severe thunderstorm warning attached to it. Um, Here we see, going back to the reflectivity, yeah, you get that nice hail core here starting to develop over
Yeah,
the last couple of frames.
that's the strongest cell in that group there.
Yeah,
That's likely. There was some of the velocity signatures on that way up in this atmosphere were like 60 to 70 mile an hour winds. Again, that's you're talking about 10, 12,000 feet off the ground. So if you know, it's possible that some of that stuff could have reached the surface. You can kind of see it there as it flared up as it went over 385.
yeah, kind of taking a step back as Corbin was talking about here, so is where it kind of peaked with those winds. Um, Even taking a quick little pixie query of it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can see like right there in that 65, 70 range. So that's kind of the capabilities of the wind gust potential that you're dealing with some of these storms. If they become supercellular in nature, supercells, for those unaware, are rotating thunderstorms. Those are the ones, not all of them produce tornadoes, but most tornadoes come from supercells. We also get usually some of our strongest wind gusts from supercells outside of, say, derechos, which we don't really expect to unfold tonight, but we do expect some pockets of some very strong winds with some of these storms. Again, we still could see some embedded rotation inside these linear segments as these storms continue to fill in. But as we get further or closer to sunrise and these storms move further southeast, just I was saying that these storms will probably lose some of that rotation. That's just because we're losing some of the wind shear aloft. The winds aloft are going to weaken the further southeast these storms get. So they will more than likely become mainly just a congealed mess. And you can kind of see that starting to take shape there around Elkhart. You can see just some stratiform rain starting to fill in up there, getting a few lightning strikes, but you've obviously or clearly got some pockets of some stronger storms, inside that line. So that's kind of what we're dealing with is mainly a linear cluster or complex with just some really small localized areas where there is some spin.
however, for the panhandle at large, I mean, we still do have the severe thunderstorm watch that's been issued. Will last until 6 a.m., encompasses much of the panhandle of Texas. Um, and that's simply saying that the atmosphere is conducive or is favorable for severe storm development. That does not mean one is currently happening. Those are where your warnings come in. That's why we have these other uh, polygons that pop up, the yellows, the orange one indicating a severe thunderstorm warning that is destructive. Now, this was warned due to baseball-sized hail as well as winds gusting up to 70 miles an hour. And as we continue to inch closer to the edge of this polygon that's been issued, this storm continues to maintain its strength. So back in Romero in Hartley County, there was a report of hail that was about an inch and a quarter in diameter. That was back in Romero, um, and that report had just come out. So that inch and a quarter is going to be about half dollar sized um, hail falling from the sky. Um, with the ongoing severe thunderstorm warning currently in effect, the destructive one, that Hartley will likely be shaved out of the existing warning in the next couple of minutes. as the strongest batches of rain and the severe storms have moved to its south. But Adrian, Vega, you are upcoming um, in the path of this storm. And let's take a quick look at the timing as to when I'll prepare.
Yeah, Tariq, can you hear me? Can you get with Chattanooga and let them know that we can do a really quick cut-in over the air? It's not going to be a long one. And yeah, you got it. You got the lightning bolt pump already.
Yeah. So with this destructive severe thunderstorm warning, these line of storms you can expect if you're in Adrian, 1223, Boise, 1231, Vega, 1259.
All right, we're going to do a live cut-in.
All
We're
right.
going to start with this one.
Okay.
Talking about it coming through Adrian,
Mm-hmm.
jump to velocities, and
Mm-hmm.
then we'll take a broad view of the northern stuff, and then we'll get off.
All right.
Good Sunday morning, everyone. It's about 12:15 a.m. on the 3rd of August, and we've got this supercell kind of embedded at this point. We talked about this earlier this evening when it was tornado warned. We had two supercells there. They were competing with the same inflow, and again, that westernmost cell looks like it's winning out, at least currently. It's getting some additional development to the west. So the question is, how long does the supercell structure and mode of this storm last? But currently, it does look like they've lowered the severe weather threat with it. It was briefly covered for a destructive tag. You can see that's still warning technically in effect until 12:30 a.m. But we've got this new polygon here, this yellow one. That's the new severe thunderstorm warning that's popped up. So we're talking about hail closer to like 2 inches in diameter and 70-mile-per-hour winds. A lot of that's going to be in the core of this area of rotation where you see the bright pinks and the blacks showing up on reflectivity. That is moving south and east. So if you're between Boise and Adrian, this is the area where you can expect some of that worst hail to come across the highway or the interstate here, really close to Adrian. If you guys are in Adrian, I would start thinking about getting away from the windows on the outside of the home. Again, you may want to put as many balls between you and the outside as you can. This is not tornado warned, but it is a supercell, and it is producing some very large hail and some very strong winds. Your expected time of arrival is 12:23 a.m. So you've got a little bit of time to prepare for this, but it does look like Adrian's going to be kind of in line with the worst of this little cluster coming through Oldham County. Can we take a look at the storm relative velocities? You can see we've got just some very, very minor rotation in here. It's nothing I don't think to be concerned about for the tornado threat. This will mainly be a damaging wind issue and some large hail as it comes through. And then it will be followed up by the flood potential. Let's go ahead and take a full look at the scope of the panhandles. You can see we've got some additional storms up there on the northern side of the area coming into the Oklahoma Panhandle. We talked about this the last couple of days, that nocturnal threat for severe weather could become realized, and does look like that's starting to unfold here. Really good complex of severe storms in southwest Kansas. We've got another batch up there. We can zoom in on some of this stuff just a little bit, and you can see it's starting to fill in there over Texas County as well. But we've got a pretty strong cell northeast of Boise City. You guys are going to get missed by that if you are in Boise City. But the southeast corner of Cimarron County will be kind of in line with that strongest cell, which again could be producing winds around 60, 65 miles per hour and up to some quarter-sized hail. Let's go ahead and track east a bit just to take a look at some of these other storms that are approaching the Oklahoma Panhandle. We've got some of these severe warning storms up in southwest Kansas, Liberal, Hugoton. You guys are in the warning right now. Again, this continues to track to the southeast, 25 miles an hour. So places downwind would be Beaver, Oklahoma, Forgan, maybe eventually Slap Out as they continue on that southeast trajectory. Mainly going to be a damaging wind threat. Again, this is not expected to be a tornado concern tonight. We do expect this to be mostly a wind issue, but flooding will be an issue as well. Let's take a whole view of the DMA. You can see we do have a lot of yellow boxes on here as well. That's just that severe thunderstorm watch that's going to be in effect until 6 a.m. So this is not the end. Looks like they actually got a new destructive tag down there in Oldham and portions of Des Smith County. Let's see what that's all about. Destructive usually is for baseball-sized hail or winds up to 80 miles an hour. So they've actually upped the hail size again to baseballs. So that's going to be for Adrian. You guys can expect some baseball-sized hail with the core of this storm as it's coming through. So again, that's certainly going to break windows, could potentially shatter windshields on vehicles. So you want to be making sure you're inside a very sturdy structure. The lower level of the home's the best side. If you have a storm cellar, wouldn't be a bad place to be. Again, just make sure you're staying away from the glass windows on the outside of the home. Again, this is probably going to produce some strong winds with it. You're talking about baseball-sized tail with 70-mile-an-hour winds. That could blow out some windows. So just make sure that you guys in Adrian are starting to seek shelter from this. Expected time of arrival would be 12:23 a.m. So you don't have a lot of time, but you've got enough to make those preparations. You've got 5-10 minutes or so before this is going to be coming across the interstate. We're going to get you back to programming for now. If you don't have the Storm Search 7 weather app, you can scan that QR code on the left-hand side of your screen. We are live on YouTube, so if you want to stay weather aware with us overnight tonight, you can tune in there. They're going to put a new warning on that Cimarron County storm.
Quarter. Texas County will also be in that new warning.
That went to black.
What went to? Oh,
yeah, it's because he's clicking through some other stuff. Yeah.
Oh, when it did it on there.
Yeah. Because it's just mirroring that.
Gotcha.
So whatever you see on that screen's what shows
so I
up
can't
on
talk.
it.
I should be going from here to here for Slack, and then
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
Okay.
Or just when does it turn in black?
Whenever I toggle, so whenever I go from here to here, like when I
Okay.
yeah. But I guess
just click on it maybe instead of hovering over it.
to just go. Well, for something
Well,
like this,
for links you can't, but for like Chrome you could.
just go into it.
Just click Chrome and then you can toggle through the tabs.
Yes.
But yeah, I've got Slack pulled up over here too if you want to look at it.
Yeah, I'll run back and forth, get my cardio in. But yeah, so we do have that new severe thunderstorm warning that's gone into effect, encompasses portions of eastern and southeastern portions of Cimarron County, but also includes western portions of Texas County. That warning will last until 1:15 Central Time. Again, that has been tagged for hail about an inch in diameter, so we're talking about quarter-sized hail. And then in addition, we're also looking at winds gusting about 60 miles an hour associated, especially with this stronger cell here out into the east, just east of Boise City there. But even Elkhart, you're seeing some moderate downpours as well, moving into Guyman. So Guyman, it might be dry now. You might be seeing a couple of raindrops starting to fall. You'll have some moderate to steady rainfall as this kind of in between here, between this cell that's coming out of Kansas is starting to enter portions of the Oklahoma Panhandle and the one out in the western Oklahoma Panhandle in Cimarron, and now trying to enter portions of Texas County. That centerpiece is starting to fill in with some moderate rainfall, moderate to steady rainfall right now. So that's not severe warned, but it is some moderate to heavy rainfall, and that can expect it to continue to fill in over the next several minutes. But we have been keeping our eye to the storms just to the north of Beaver County, as well as easternmost Texas County there. That one is moving about 25 miles an hour. So I would say in the last couple of frames, it's kind of weakened a little bit. It's almost starting to split here. You're starting to get in a cell out to the east. And then you have this main batch here in the middle. That's about to cut through Liberal County. I actually, in fact, want to take a look at Dodge City's radar. Yeah, there we go. That's a lot better. Yeah, so you're seeing heavy rainfall associated with this, but your biggest threat, not so much hail as we had with the previous destructive storm that's currently down over portions of Oldham County as well as Deaf Smith County. This one, I would say the highest threat is going to be your heavy winds. I'm sorry, your heavy downpours as well as strong winds. I believe gusting up to 60 miles an hour associated with this storm making its way over portions of over portions of of southeastern or southern Kansas into the Oklahoma Panhandle. Let's see where.
Can you go to the Clovis cam
Mhm.
on
This?
yes, I think it's the second one. Yeah. Go to your controls and see if it's turning. Okay, it's looking the right direction. I don't think it can look any further east.
East
So
to the
there's
right.
so that's the western edge of that line where the supercell's embedded in Oldham and Deaf Smith County, what you're looking at.
Gotcha.
So that's a camera you can use if you want. And then the Pantex Hereford camera is probably another one you can use. I don't know if that one's going to get much of a visual, but it generally looks in that northeast direction, north-northeast direction. So you'll probably get a good view of it from there too when it gets closer.
So it looks like we're getting some rain starting to make its way into Adrian. Um, and that's also where some of the largest hail associated with this storm that has been labeled destructive. It's a destructive severe thunderstorm warning that'll last until 1:15 a.m. Um, that portion is looking like it'll center over Adrian and areas just to the east. Vega, you may just miss out on the worst part of this storm, but you will still be dealing with gusty winds, no doubt, as well as heavy rain. So if you're along I-40, if you are a traveler, if you're moving through, if you're able to hear this, don't be surprised if you are experiencing some blinding conditions with the heavy rainfall. I would even say if that hail core moves over, when it moves over I-40, if you're in a high profile vehicle, if you get a gusty wind, that can cause some issues. We're talking about tractor trailers, um, even vehicles that stand taller, they might run into some difficulty traveling along I-40 going from Vega, Adrian, over into Boise, and then eventually over into New Mexico. You might deal with some strong gusty winds associated with that. That might cause some traveling concerns, but no doubt, I would hope that you are taking a beat, coming off the roads if you can, as that strong storm moves across I-40 over the next several minutes or so. In fact, you do have, I would kind of almost like a tongue sticking out here toward Adrian, just along I-40, probably giving you some heavy downpours as you're traveling along it. And then briefly going back to the storm relative velocity, this storm did have a history of being reported for a tornado and warned for a tornado, was not confirmed at this point in time. But taking a look at its overall velocity, you're not seeing much in the way of rotation, especially with the eastern portion of that storm. That was the portion that was warned for the tornado earlier. Radar indicated that portion does not really show signs of any kind of rotation whatsoever at this point in time. And even this western portion, I mean, at best, Corbin, correct me if I'm wrong, you've got this kind of small, weak looking rotation there at best, but nothing to sound any alarms over.
Yeah, I wouldn't be overly concerned with it.
No.
I'm trying to dig up a little bit more information about the tornado warning from earlier this evening, just because it kind of came out of left field.
Mm.
I do. Were you live whenever were looking at the Channing cam when it had that kind of like
Yeah, but
weird
we
look to
were,
it?
yeah, so I was
You were
live
already live.
on here when it looked interesting here, but then we pulled up yours and I was like, what? You were like,
Right, but we were live on YouTube.
yeah, I believe so. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
we were live on YouTube having that discussion. Going back to reflectivity in the panhandle at large. At this point in time, although it's not severe at all, you are starting to see some rainfall over portions of northern Potter County. It's light, it's maybe some pockets of moderate rain, but overall it's fairly light rain. Most of the heavy stuff is just to our west, about to traverse over portions of I-40, sandwiched between Adrian and Vega. Adrian again, um, you're probably going to deal with the worst portion of this storm. Now, at this point, this weekend. So right now, for the warning that's issued, the destructive warning, uh, we see right now the storm is heading toward Adrian. It's weakening overall slightly, but we do have golf ball sized hail, so it's come down from baseball size now. It's golf ball sized hail, still still can cause a lot of damage, although it is golf ball size, and winds that are going to gust up to 70 miles an hour. That's going to be reserved for some of the strongest portions of this storm. But no doubt, regardless of where you are along this storm, you're dealing with heavy downpours, as well as that could cause some issues if you're traveling along I-40 or just in the area, as well as gusty winds. Again, that can gust up to 70 miles an hour at times. But I do want to check in on our Oklahoma Panhandle to our north. We do see that the western cell is continuing to strengthen a bit. It looks healthier than its neighbor just to its west. And that's kind of moving over Keys, Burton, Hopkins. We do have that severe thunderstorm warning in effect. That'll last until 1:15, and that extends over into Texas County. But right now, you're starting to see moderate rainfall beginning to fill in um, just north of Guyman, but including Guyman, Hovey, Unity, Strait, that entire area is starting to see some rain develop, although that portion of it is not severe. Now, we are continuing to keep our eye on storms moving into the Oklahoma Panhandle from Kansas. These have been feisty, for the lack of a better term. They've had a history of wind gusts 75 miles an hour or so. We're keeping an eye on that. 65, 75 mile an hour winds. You can actually, at one point, it looked like it started to bow out a little bit. That would indicate some gusty winds that would be associated or affiliated with these storms, as well as heavy downpours. Looking right now at Liberal, you're probably starting to see the rain rates pick up a bit as it moves into the area. Tyrone, you're starting to see rain get a bit heavier. But this storm is making its way over easternmost portions, or will soon make its way over easternmost portions of Texas County and eventually over into Beaver County, where no doubt they'd probably deal with the heavier or more severe portion of this storm should it maintain its strength as it moves over into that area. So moving back over into Cimarron County, we see that they've let the previous severe thunderstorm warning expire. It was set to expire at 12:30. They let it go. But we do have this healthier cell to the east that's making its way over into Texas County. And that, again, lasts until 1:15 a.m. as well. Oh, okay. Check the chat.
Okay. Get ready for a tornado warning, Tyree.
Yes. So we were just talking about the cell out in Cimarron County. Um, that it was showing healthier signs of development. Looks like the National Weather Service is going to go ahead and issue a tornado warning shortly for this storm out here. We're going to take a look at storm relative velocity just to see what they might be looking at. Let me
kind of see it in here.
Yeah, it's kind of
Zoom in a little bit.
over
South of
Keys.
yeah.
Mm. Yeah, so Corman's about to go live. Oh, this one, this radar looks a lot healthier. That's the Amarillo one. Why is it?
Good Sunday morning, everyone. We've got a new tornado warning that's going to be issued here momentarily in Cimarron County. You can see we've got actually a pretty good couplet starting to show up there in that very last scan that we had here within the last 60 seconds. The National Weather Service will be issuing a radar indicated tornado warning for this storm. Again, this is east of Boise City. Josiah's got this thing circled. So you're looking at what we call our storm relative velocities. This is where we're just watching which way the winds are spinning. You can see this is a very tight couplet. We actually just got that warning if you want to click on it, Josiah. Again, green just indicating winds heading towards the radar, red heading away. This is south of Keys. If you want to go ahead and put a distance marker, or at least take a measurement from how far south of Keys that rotation is, so people can get a better idea of kind of where this is at. This is out over open country. Again, it's like 7 to 10 miles. Again, it's even a little bit further southeast from there. And again, this is continuing to move away in the southeast direction. So you're like 8 miles south of Keys. There's the newest scan. Doesn't look as prominent as it did just a second ago, but it popped up very quick and it was very tight. And so, again, the conditions have been there for some supercell structure and some of these storms to potentially produce quick tornadoes. So that is why that warning has been been issued, and it will be out until 1:15 a.m. That does include a small section of Texas County as well. But you can see that rotation there in that last couple of scans is where that concern for a potential tornado would be on the ground up there in Cimarron County. Again, this is east of Boise City. If you're in Boise City, this is not a threat to you guys. It's moving away from you. If you're in Conrad or Carrick, this is moving to your north and east. It should stay away from Highway 82, 87. If you're in Griggs, I would certainly watch very closely this area of rotation. Let's take a look at the reflectivity values just to see what it looks like there from that standpoint. You can see doesn't look all impressive, but this is pretty far away from the radar. We're talking, 10, 12,000 feet off the ground. So it's dark outside. The National Weather Service would rather err on the side of caution. Again, we did have one tornado warning earlier this evening. There was a potential report of the tornado from a trucker there off of Highway 54 from that first storm. And again, you kind of get, there you go. Again, we do have just the conditions are there. So they just want to make sure that they're erring on the side of caution. If you're in Griggs, I would think or consider about finding that interior room of the home. If you got a storm shelter, that would be a really great place for you to be in. Just make sure you're putting as many walls between you and the outside world as you can. If you're in Griggs, if you are in Conrad or Carrick, you're outside of the tornado warning. If you are in Burton or Keys or Hopkins and you maybe you're hearing tornado sirens, you guys are outside of the polygon. The tornado potential is to your south and moving to the southeast. So we don't expect a tornado concern for you guys. Now, you may see some really large hail and some damaging winds. You can see that hail core is very close to Keys and Burton, which you guys may be experiencing some of that right now. But Hopkins, you guys may start to see some of that too. But Griggs, really the area that we're most concerned for any kind of tornado potential with this storm. Let's take a view of the entire viewing area. You can see we still have that small cluster. Looks more like it's congealing. It's about to come across the interstate right now. It does have a destructive tag on it for baseball-sized hail and winds up to 70 miles per hour. Go ahead and turn that off.
Yeah.
And again, we do have that storm coming across the interstate right now. So Adrian, you guys are in the heart of this thing. Again, it's right on top of you, so you want to make sure you're in that interior room, or at least away from the exterior walls and the windows of the home. Again, if you're in Vega, haven't seen the storm come through just yet, but the worst of it should be off to your west. We don't expect it to push through there. If you're in Sims on north side of Deaf Smith County, this will be moving in your direction. So you want to start maybe considering about finding that interior room. And again, getting away from the windows on the outside of the home. Let's jump up to the northern cells outside of the tornado warning. The ones up there that are coming into the northeast side of the Panhandles. You've got that new warning that was just issued up there in Beaver County. Perryton, you guys fall within that warning. This is a pretty expansive severe thunderstorm warning. So again, we're not expecting you guys to see significant severe weather immediately, but with how things are trending, you will probably start to see this become more of a damaging wind threat up here towards Liberal, Kansas, heading southeast, places like Beaver, Perryton, back up into Lipscomb County. The damaging wind concern is the primary one for you guys up there. And we do again have that tornado warned storm out there in Cimarron and the southwest portion of Texas County. The only community that we're really concerned at this point right now out there would be the community of Griggs. Again, that's going to be on the southern side of this polygon. If you're in Hopkins, Burton, Keys, you're not in the tornado warning, but you still could see some very large hail and some damaging winds. If we take a look at the velocities, we should have a new scan in by now. just to see what that looks like. Looks kind of contaminated. There we go. So you can still see there's that rotation. It's northwest of Griggs. Let's put a distance from Griggs to that spin that you're seeing on the relative velocities, just to show you how far away it is. It's moving at about 25 miles an hour. And so it is 6 miles away. I would certainly think you're within the next 5 to 10 minutes to be inside that interior room of your home. Again, that's where you've got that potential tornado that could be on the ground. This is radar indicated. It's dark outside. You're not going to see much, if anything. And again, you don't need to be out there looking in that direction anyway. Just make sure that you are finding that interior room. And again, staying away from the exterior walls of the home. We're going to get you back to programming for now. If you don't have the Storm Surge 7 weather app, you can scan the QR code on the left-hand side of your screen, and we'll keep you up to date on YouTube. We are live right now. So again, if you want to stay weather aware with us 24/7 this morning, you can tune in to ABC7 Amarillo on YouTube, where you can track these storms with us the entire night. Sure.
Of course. I'm glad I was looking at the chat. I was like, oh, oh. Yeah. Voice city observation. Yeah. So, in addition to this general area of thunderstorms here, over portions of Cimarron County, Boise City had a wind gust of 48 miles an hour, so that's going to be sub-severe, but gusty nonetheless. Um, take a look at our reflectivity here. Yeah, you can still see we're dealing with some hail um, just south of Burton, southeast of Keys, along 412, if you're familiar with that area. So probably dealing with some difficult driving conditions if you are on the road, which I don't recommend being on the road since there is an active tornado warning. Griggs, 12:53, we do expect that tornado to, if it's around, to make its presence known by 12:53 this morning. So I would find your safe place, seek shelter if you can, away from windows, the innermost part of your home, the lowest part of your home if you can. If you have a basement, if you have a cellar, I would go there now. Um, just away from windows, 100%. In this case, as we do have an active tornado warning um, for Cimarron County, Griggs, you are going to be in that main line of concern as that
There's about 2,000 people there in Griggs.
yeah, if you make 2,000 people. So if you are hearing this, if you're around, if you know anybody, make sure that you are seeking your safe place, again, away from windows, innermost part of your home, lowest part of your home. So if you have a basement, if you have a cellar, find it, go there now. There's no time to waste, as you have about 10 minutes or so before this tornado makes its presence known, if it is on the ground at this point in time. And even taking
You
a
want
look
to put it into a loop, like a really
Loop?
slow 15 to 30-minute loop. That's fine. Where you got it, it's probably fine.
Time lapse though.
Yeah, just the laps, and then do the velocities, just so we can take a look at how this thing's kind of progressed. I mean, it's not really there anymore. Just go hit play.
Oh, what's this?
That's just another.
I'm here. That's the tornado warning.
Yes.
Yes.
Just hit play, because you can see where it pops up here. So that rotation's headed towards Griggs, but it has weakened a lot here in the last 2 or 3 scans. So you want to do another quick update over the air, Tyreek? Just leave that loop on real quick.
Yeah.
And then we'll jump over to reflectivity. Do you want to turn on
Which one? That's a new one. I have not used that one.
Good Sunday morning, everyone. Again, just a quick update on that tornado warning storm there in Cimarron County. Again, it has weakened, the rotation has weakened considerably. Again, this is about to move over Griggs, so there's about 2,200 people there about to see this area of rotation pass overhead. So just make sure you guys are in that interior room of your home, in the lowest level of the home. You have a storm cellar, It's the best place that you can be. You've got about 5-10 minutes before this thing's right on top of you. So just make sure that you are taking action right now to prevent again getting into harm's way. So make sure that you find yourself inside the room that's as far away from the outside world as you can. This is a radar indicated tornado warning until 1:15 a.m. Again, this is moving southeast at 25 miles an hour. Once it passes through Griggs, there's not a whole lot out here, but there's still a handful of homesteads that still need to be making sure that you're in shelter. So if you're south and east of Griggs, you're still in kind of harm's way. So just make sure that you are also starting to seek shelter from this storm. Now, if you're in Stevens, you are outside of the warning. We don't expect this to be much of a concern for you, at least not at this point in time. We will continue to watch it. It's moving generally southeast, so we may have to monitor this here over the half hour or so if it's going to impact the areas along Highway 54, Texoma. Something to pay attention to. You don't have that tornado warning on top of you yet. If you're on the northwest side of the county, you may or may not have seen the warning pop up on your phone. Let's just do this rotation way out here, heading in y'all's general direction. But again, it has weakened considerably, so that's some good news there. Let's take a look at the reflectivity real quick just to show you what that storm looks like. It's congealing into a big mess, and this is what we kind of expect to happen tonight. We may get some short-lived areas of rotation, which could pose a very low risk for tornadoes that are not non-zero threat, but we will start to see this become more of a damaging wind concern as we get through the rest of this evening. Go ahead and zoom out, Josiah, so we can take a better view of the whole Oklahoma Panhandle. You can just kind of see this whole thing is becoming a linear line or a linear mess of strong to severe storm. We would expect the western portions of this line to be the strongest thunderstorms. So that's where you're going to have the biggest issues for your large hail, your strongest winds. And again, if we do get some more rotation within some additional storms, this is more than likely where it would try to stem from. These are going to be moving to the south and east. We do have that severe thunderstorm watch in effect until 6 o'clock in the morning. So this is not just going to be a couple hour event for some severe storm potential. Maybe as they initially move through, but areas south and east, Highway 60, back down 83 towards Canadian, Wellington, Shamrock. This stuff's going to be coming through a lot earlier in the morning, around that 4 or 5 a.m. time frame. So you guys have plenty of time there, but we do have, again, a big mess of storms coming into the Oklahoma Panhandle. This is where a lot of our severe weather threats going to stem from through the rest of this evening. Let's take a quick look down there on I-40 at that storm that's coming across Adrian right now. Again, it still has that destructive tag on it, so mainly going to be due to the wind. Again, looks like there might be a quick little hook echo feature there just to the south of Adrian too with the supercell as it continues to track south and east. If you're in Sims or Walcott, this storm's moving in y'all's direction. You kind of see the outflow boundary out there as well. So this is where you're going to start seeing some of those really strong winds. Those are going to be heading into Sims here within the next 5 to 10 minutes. So again, just expect some really strong damaging wind potential with this storm as it continues on that southeast journey at 25 miles per hour. It's in effect until 1:15 a.m. We're going to get you back to programming for now. If you don't have the Storm Through 7 weather app, scan the QR code on the left-hand side of your screen. We are live on YouTube. So if you want to stay weather aware with us through the rest of this morning, you can tune in there at ABC 7 Amarillo. Would you like to try and do a cut in here at some point?
Me? Yeah, I would do it.
Okay.
Uh,
I think you've seen enough to.
oh yeah. Oh, because I did
See
say
it?
that, didn't I?
Yeah.
I did. I did say that. Yeah. Yeah. I feel good.
You're in
I know.
awfully early.
Yeah, right. Well, you told me midnight to 5, and then I woke up and I woke up at midnight and I saw a couple of them, and then
Yeah, we started this live, and Josiah and I were like talking. It's kind of interesting because you can kind of like make out this like little bowl feature here,
yeah,
and there was some rotation there. It just wasn't that impressive, and I mean, we're kind of looking at it like, yeah, I mean,
could be.
whatever.
Yeah,
And then about 4 minutes later, like without warning, there was a tornado warning on it. Like NWS didn't send a chat out or a message or anything. They were just like,
They
it's
"There's
just
a
like
warning."
warned.
Oh, wow.
I was like, oh, were we
Okay.
just talking about this?
We were just talking about this.
Yes.
So yeah, so that's I don't know. I don't think anything was on the ground, but there was a trucker that called them and had reported that there was a possible tornado coming across the highway off of 54 near Romero. So,
Oh, well.
you still alive?
Yes,
Okay.
still alive. So we're still here, looking at the panhandle at large, as we still do have the destructive severe thunderstorm warning for parts of Jeff Smith, as well as Oldham counties that'll last until 1:15 Central Time. It looks like the strongest batch of this line of storms that seems to have congealed before we had um, two supercells that eventually made their way into one line after a certain point, made their way across I-40, no doubt. Gusty winds
They had a
associated with that.
Yeah, gusty wind. They had an instantaneous rain rate of almost 7 inches an hour in Adrian.
Yeah. So right here as that rain fell through. I mean, had that storm been moving slower, stalled out, no doubt, we were talking about about 7 inches of rain would have fell in an hour. So no doubt that was a lot of rain in a short amount of time that would have fallen had this storm moved
Yeah, fortunately,
slower.
that rain rate's only going to be for a limited time.
Yeah.
They are going to continue to let that tornado warning run for Griggs in southwest Texas County, even though the rotation is dissipated. These storms have kind of cycled, so I think their thoughts is it may start to spin again here in a little bit. So for Texoma, the town of Texoma specifically, they're on the Texas-Oklahoma border on Highway 54. That area of rotation, which has dissipated, is the general area of the storm that we'll continue to monitor. It's moving in y'all's direction. Currently not much of a concern right now, but it did look pretty interesting for about 5 minutes there on velocities. It certainly had a pretty tight couplet. Wouldn't be shocked if there was a brief tornado out there. Fortunately, it was northwest of Griggs, not on top of any of the communities out there. So hopefully there wasn't any damage that was indicated from that one.
Trying to get this all together. And we still do have some of those strong storms making their way from Kansas into the Oklahoma panhandle, rather, over portions mainly of Beaver County, just crossing over through Liberal, Tyrone. No doubt you saw some uh, gusty winds and heavy rain. But we do still have a severe thunderstorm warning that encompasses Beaver County, eastern extent of Texas County, as well as going into Lipscomb and portions of Ochiltree counties. That'll last until 1:30 a.m. as that line of storms continues to make its way through. Tonight we've had numerous issues with storms with large hail cores, and no doubt that still might be the case in some of those storms over Cimarron County, making the way into portions of Texas County. But I think the main issue with this one will be the heavy rain, as well as the gusty winds as that line of storms continues to congeal and make its way further south and east as the night progresses. Starting to see some heavy to moderate rain make its way. Turpin, Flores, you're definitely seeing rain start to pick up a little bit. Forgan, and then Beaver down the pike. You'll start tapping into some of the heavier rain as it makes its way down into your direction. But these storms have been moving about 25 miles an hour or so. So I'm gonna pause it here so we can time out who might see what when. And let's extend it a bit let's go out about an hour. So if you are in Beaver, you're talking about 1:21 a.m. Adams, 1:01 a.m. So about 10 minutes or so. Bryan's Corner, close to 1:30, 1:29 a.m. And Gray, 1:40. That's when you can see this strong line of storms making its way out of Kansas, makes its way eventually into the Oklahoma panhandles. But again, we still do have this tornado warning that is still active over portions of both Cimarron and Texas County. It seems that the area of concern, the rotation, moved just north of Griggs. Um, so it might have just skimmed just to the north of that. And it's continuing on the southeast direction, but we're going to take a quick look at storm relative velocity. Let me take a quick change here. And let's play this out. You can see as that kind of area of rotation that the National Weather Service and we were concerned about seems to have kind of broken up or dissipated or so. Corbin briefly talked about storm cycling. So while they still have an active tornado that's posted, active tornado warning that's posted, you may be hearing sirens still as that's still going on. That's simply because there's a possibility that this could resurge as it continues its cycle and begin rotating again, should that happen. But no doubt, we still do have an active tornado warning. It is radar indicated, so it's not yet confirmed, but that does mean you want to find your safe place. You want to seek shelter in the innermost portions of your home. If you have a cellar, if you have a basement, go there, find there, stay there until that tornado warning and the sirens that you might be hearing subside. That's for sure, because we're talking about 2,200 people who live in Griggs. That area of rotation has since moved by. So anything to the south and east, Texhoma, while you are currently outside of that polygon for both the tornado warning and the severe thunderstorm warning, you may just want to consider possibly making some preparations in case you are added into the polygon for the severe thunderstorm warning and or the tornado warning that's currently in effect that is set to expire at 1:15 a.m.
Yeah, we got some more updates for the storm that's near Adrian there in portions of Oldham and even Deaf Smith County. They're gonna it's on a weakening trend, and they're gonna drop the winds to 60 miles per hour and penny-sized hail. Now, folks in Amarillo, as I was on my way in, we're seeing a little bit of rainfall, but this exact storm isn't gonna necessarily threaten the Amarillo proper area. More closer to probably Hereford if it can still sustain itself, maybe the Canyon area. That's something that we're gonna have to kind of keep an eye on. But as far as the tornado warning goes, they are saying that there is still a little bit of broad rotation. It's very weak, so they're going to keep that tornado warning going up in portions of Cimarron and then maybe making its way over into Texas County.
Okay. Can't, yeah, looks like they're
Oh, they're canceling.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah, it looks
They
like
just
they're gonna cancel the tornado warning for Cimarron and Texas. Oh goodness, Cimarron and Texas County, as we were talking about earlier. It seems like that general area of rotation that was an area of concern has since dissipated, broken apart, become messy. Whatever term you want to use, it's no longer of concern. So while right now it's still active on our system here, it seems that the National Weather Service will continue to allow this tornado warning to cancel ahead of schedule at 1:15. That was when it was supposed to expire. Looks like they're going to expire it a little bit ahead of time, as we are not seeing the same level of rotation that we once saw with this storm. Again, looking at the last 30 minutes or so, you could see that general area of rotation, the greens, the reds, as it passed near Griggs, you can see it kind of break apart, dissipate. They kept the warning just in case the storm rather was cycling. At this point in time, we haven't seen the greens and the reds. That's indicating those rotating winds, the greens, the reds coming together. We have not seen that in a little bit. So they're going to let that tornado warning expire. So as you can see right there, it has been lifted. So if you are in Griggs, you can breathe a sigh of relief. And even Texhoma down the pike, you may not have a tornado warning right now in the present coming at you, but you still have some heavy, strong winds and heavy downpours that'll be associated with this batch of strong storms making its way out of Cimarron County and entering portions of Texas County.
Go ahead and zoom out, Josiah, just so we can kind of see. I want to point this out. You've got this boundary. You can see it there from Borger extending northwest up just north of Dumas towards Cactus. Go ahead and just kind of highlight that whole thing. So one thing that we'll need to monitor, I think, running through the remainder of this evening is any storms that ride that old residual outflow boundary. So what that is that's just an area of converging winds. They could be coming from different directions, and more than likely they are. So while the tornado threat's pretty low, I do think anything riding that boundary may be something to monitor through the rest of this evening. That kind of correlates with your tail and Charlie storms out here in Cimarron County. So anything kind of riding down that boundary, if we get any rotation with them, those are the storms that might do something funky. But the rest of these, I don't think are going to be a real true tornado concern, unless they're probably riding some kind of boundary like what we see here on on radar. So stuff coming out of Cimarron County, maybe the stuff to watch through the rest of tonight for that any kind of quick spin up potential.
And briefly, we were talking about the storms that are currently located over portions of Deaf Smith as well as Oldham County. Those have, while the bulk of it has since passed over Adrian and is kind of making its way toward Ford, Sims, um, Milo Center, making its way down toward that direction. It has been slightly on a weakening trend. We could play the last couple of frames. It seems like it wants to congeal into just a linear line of storms. So once you kind of get that situation set up, your main threat becomes the gusty winds. As Matt had said earlier, they have downgraded the hail threat to penny sized. So you might see a new polygon that has developed, and it's kind of following that storm, that yellow. That's indicating that it's no longer destructive. While they still do have the destructive tag that'll expire in the next 18, 17 minutes or so at 1:15, that will soon expire, but we will still currently have the regular severe thunderstorm warning that's warned for penny-sized hail and winds up to 60 miles an hour associated with that storm in particular. As it continues to move south and eat some places down the pike, again, Milo Center, Sims, a little bit further than that, we're talking about Westway, Hereford. If this storm is able to keep itself together, you might be dealing with some strong winds, gusty winds, heavy downpours associated with that, and no doubt possibly still some penny-sized hail, although it seems like the hail threat seems to be slowly decreasing as the storm continues to move in the south and east direction. And you may notice that on the south side of Deaf Smith, you no longer have that severe thunderstorm watch. Now, remember, a watch is saying that the area is conducive for severe thunderstorm development. Now, just because there may not be a watch over portions of Palmer County or even Swisher County and the county in between, Palmer, Swisher, Castro, there you go. I always forget. Castro County. So if you're not in Palmer, Castro, or Swisher, while you may not have a severe thunderstorm watch at this time, it is possible if these storms maintain themselves, you could have a severe thunderstorm warning that could happen. That could happen even though there is not a watch. Although a watch does indicate that the area is conducive for severe thunderstorm development.
Yeah, especially with talking with those storms up there in Cimarron County, since they're kind of still back building just a little bit, we're gonna have to keep our eye on probably some hydro concerns a little bit later. That's the National Weather Service is kind of keeping an eye on as well.
Yeah, there's some flood potential, especially in your urban areas like Boise City, some of your communities where you've got a lot of concrete, a lot of impermeable, surfaces. If you start getting a lot of that rain very quickly, you could lead to some low-lying areas, start to see some inundation for some water or from some water.
You can see we previously had a batch of storms move over not too long ago, and now we're starting to see another batch just to your west wanting to move further east over Boise City. Even Conrad, you could have some flooding concerns should more rain move in that direction. And as Matt was indicating, it is back building, so you can have it a lot of rain falling in a short amount of time as these storms continue to move over the same area, what we call training, over the same area, dumping a lot of rain in a short amount of time. So we'll keep an eye on that as that continues to develop. But moving further east, again, for our friends over the Oklahoma Panhandle, so Beaver County, easternmost portions of Texas County. We're also talking about portions of Lipscomb County and Ochiltree. You are still in a severe thunderstorm warning that will last until 1:30 in the morning. Should it not be extended at that point in time, but it'll last until 1:30 in the morning. As these storms continue to look linear, again, the main threats with these are probably going to be gusty winds up to 60 miles an hour, as well as the heavy rainfall that can be associated with that. So at this point in time, we are currently seeing the heaviest batch of rain just move past Liberal, moving over portions of Beaver within the next 5-10 minutes. Forgan, you're definitely seeing some of that rain move through. So you might be seeing some gusty conditions as well as some rain. But I am gonna relieve myself and I'm gonna pass it over to one of your talented meteorologists here who will take the wheel for a little bit. Whoever wants to do that.
All right, guys. Corbin Vogus here, Chief Meteorologist. Again, we've got an overnight nocturnal event that's likely going to continue to persist probably until about sunrise this morning. So this is going to be a long duration severe weather event for the Texas-Oklahoma Panhandle. Once these storms move out of the Oklahoma Panhandle, you guys like Guymon, Beaver, Boise City, we'll start to see that threat dwindle and kind of diminish. So it's not going to be a long-term issue. It's just going to be kind of a long-term issue for the whole viewing area. And so that's why we have that severe thunderstorm watch in effect until 6 a.m. That's not just for a small section of the area either. That's really the whole Texas-Oklahoma Panhandle. The only exception is from Palmer County east to Childress and Cottle County, and then eastern New Mexico. They're not included in that either. So that's just where we expect a lot of these severe storms to continue to develop through the remainder of this evening and continue to persist. You've got that really big, expansive severe thunderstorm warning out here, which covers areas like Perryton, Lipscomb, back up towards Slapout and Booker. This is until 1:30 a.m. This really is just due to some of these storms out here in the Oklahoma Panhandle. But Booker, you guys still need to keep an eye on these storms. I just think that it's going to be a little delayed on when they're going to get there, just because you guys are so far downstream from some of these thunderstorms, especially areas like Canadian and back up towards Higgins and Glacier. These storms are probably still 1, maybe even 2 hours away from impacting you. So you don't need to make any immediate action or take any immediate action from these storms as they make their way through, but you do need to be on heightened alert. So because they are moving in y'all's general direction. I think that it's going to pose mostly a wind concern for any of the stuff up here in the northeast. Generally speaking, a lot of our stronger cells in a complex tend to be that southwest edge. And so that would be these ones coming out of Boise City that continue to back build. And another thing, which again we had Josiah mentioned to you earlier, is we've got this residual outflow boundary up here in the northern panhandles. This, I think, is something that we will have to watch through the remainder of this morning. That's where you've got some convergence in the lower levels. That is a little bit of some low-level spin, at least, long story short. And so if we're going to see any storms pose any kind of tornado potential, it would be very limited in its capacity, I think. It wouldn't be very long-lived, but it would probably be something riding down this outflow boundary. So it does not guarantee that you're going to see a tornado. I just think if it's going to happen through the rest of tonight, it will most likely be anything that's either riding this boundary or very close to this boundary. So, cactus, dumus, borger is something we'll watch. It's not going to be, it doesn't guarantee that anything's going to happen, but it is something that we'll monitor through the remainder of this evening. So we've got a new lightning strike showing up there on the south side of Moore County. Let's see if I can't, bear with me. There's a lot of extra.
Did we get a link posted to Facebook?
I posted on my page and my Twitter, but not on the main page. No.
I'm gonna post the link to YouTube. So
okay. Yeah, I was in the process of doing that, and then we got a tornado warning, and so we jumped back on air.
No worries.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Trying to see. So things are kind of quiet right now in the National Weather Service chats. Let's look at our lightning mapping array. So we are starting to see some additional static discharges over kind of the western half of Potter County and the southern portion of Moore County. So I'll go ahead and circle it for you. So where we're seeing some of these static discharges that have recently popped up are right up in here. And so you can see that we do have one lightning strike that was detected. The static discharge doesn't necessarily mean it's a lightning strike. It just means that there's a collision between proton and neutron that was detected by some of the sensors out there in that mapping array. So, but what that does mean is we'll probably see some development to a degree out in this general area. You can see that we've got some thunderstorms continuing to work their way through. You've got some attempts at some weaker thunderstorms up here north of Bushland, and even a couple of, strikes way outside of this little cluster of storms also. But this lightning strike's pretty far away from any kind of, main updraft that we've noted or seen on radar right now. So something to monitor. We may see some additional development out here over the next 15 to 30 minutes. A bulk of the severe weather still looks like it's going to stem from this stuff coming out of the Oklahoma Panhandle. Yeah, and it does look like there's a lot of static discharges now starting to be detected by this cell here. So this one does appear to be strengthening out here southeast of Boys Ranch on Boys Ranch Highway. So you guys, if you're running between the Northwest Loop and Boys Ranch, there is going to be some moderate to heavy rain here. You can see there's a fairly high concentration of static discharges right on the county line where you've got a few of these lightning strikes. And it's really flared up here within the last few minutes.
And that's something that we'll kind of have to keep an eye on a little bit if it can maintain itself towards the Amarillo area.
Yeah, that's going to come in from the northwest. So this would be moving through the city if it continues to strengthen. Let's see what our latest resolution models have in store for us. So they really keep a lot of this stuff over in the eastern and northeast side of the panhandles. I mean, if we had to bisect the panhandle from any kind of road network, Highway 287 from Childress to Amarillo up towards Dalhart, anywhere northeast of that general line is where it does look like a lot of this storm activity will probably persist into the morning hours. So this stuff up here is expected to persist and just track kind of in this general southeast direction. So we might get a quick shot of rain initially here in Amarillo from this storm here that's coming out into the northwest and the western side of Potter County. It does not look like it's going to be severe. Probably some brief gusty winds, maybe the occasional lightning strike, and some moderate rain at times. It's not even going to cover the full city, but you will see probably a quick shot of rain, especially on the western half of town. What we'll be watching is where some of this stuff up here in the Oklahoma Panhandle gets. It may end up riding, this may be the southern extent of our storms that just ride this outflow boundary. So all of this stuff may end up just kind of tracking down this boundary towards Dumas, towards Lake Meredith, towards Borger, Panhandle, White Deer, and and so on and so forth down towards about Childress. This stuff may not get to Childress until after the sun rises, so it's going to be a long night for us. If you guys are in Shamrock, Clarendon, and Childress, probably don't have to stay up with us for the next few hours. If you want to go get some shut-eye until about 4 a.m., 5 a.m., and then come back and check in, that's totally fine, understandable. So areas kind of within the next hour to half hour that could be dealing with some severe weather. Hereford to Umbarger, maybe Canyon. We'll need to watch some of this stuff. The southern extension is the stuff that's really just severe. The rest of it is sub-severe thunderstorm activity. We can actually take a look from Bushland and show you just what it looks like out there. It's not raining yet. Lightning strikes have certainly decreased, but they're still out there. So it's not like a complete light show, but every now and then we do get those flashes of lightning. You can see again, there's a lot more activity here on the left-hand side of the camera where you'd be looking down towards that severe warning storm in Deaf Smith County. But the stuff here over Bushland and north of Bushland seems to be pretty tame. A little feisty, but not necessarily severe or spicy. But again, there's that small core. You could get some really quick, very heavy rain from this.
hot too.
Mhm.
75 in here. Getting a little warm.
My problem is I'm a little sunburnt, so
Oh.
might be radiating heat. Not really, because I'm peeling. They came out with a new
Warning.
convective risk for today.
Oh, is there any change to it?
I'm not sure. I didn't see the last one.
The
Likes
Baron
to-
was very tame on storms tonight. I told Josiah, I was like, change that before you go on air.
It looks like the herd kind of picked up on it now.
Yeah, it's been back and forth. It's the. Are you talking about the latest one?
Yeah. The one before that. The one. Sorry, I looked at the one. I looked at the 4Z. I didn't look at the 5Z since the
Yeah, the 5Z has that stuff coming. This first round coming through Amarillo, and then it has that stuff in the Oklahoma Panhandle, riding down that OFB and just hanging around in the eastern half of the Panhandle. But there's probably going to be a pretty good swath of 1 to 3 inches of rain.
Oh yeah. So they're going to let the warnings for southwestern Texas Panhandle and Cimarron, Texas counties to expire at 1:15 a.m.
Okay, so they're not going to renew.
So yeah, they're just going to be keeping this going, I guess, for the wind.
So, are they going to keep the one down in Death Smith County going?
No.
Okay, so they're going to expire the warning here, is what Matt's talking about. So this one near Sims and Ford, this is just a strong thunderstorm at this point. It's no longer severe, so you are going to watch these tags disappear and these warning polygons disappear off the map here in 60 seconds or so. Here at 1:15, which is when they're allowed to expire. They are not going to reissue warnings for those. They're also not going to reissue the warning up here. They're seeing winds gusting around 40 to 45. That has been noted on several observation sites up there, but we haven't picked up any severe wind gusts from the storms there in Cimarron County, now moving into portions of Dallam and Sherman County. If you're in Stratford, though, about to see some very heavy rain. So rain rates may become your biggest issue at this point, with rain rates as high as 4 to 5 inches an hour instantaneously for a short duration. It won't be like that for a whole hour, but you may get some periods where you've got a few minutes of it's really just raining cats and dogs out there, which could lead to a localized and kind of a short-lived flood concern. Let's take a look at some of our radar accumulated totals here over the last 6 hours. Just take a couple of samples here, just kind of picking it up. Boise City looks like you guys had, an inch and a half of rain or so. Some of these spots down here south of Griggs now picking up about 3/4 of an inch of rain. So a good chunk of the Oklahoma Panhandle, at least here in Cimarron County, seeing some really good rainfall. That's actually a good thing for you guys. Believe it or not, while it's been extremely wet here in Amarillo, areas like Stratford have only seen about 10 inches of rain so far this year, which is not far from normal, but it is below average. Dalhart had a relatively dry month of July. They fell a little bit below normal for their precipitation values. So the northwest corner of our area really could utilize some of this rainfall that we're dealing with. I know you guys probably don't want it in 20 minutes, but it's feast or famine here, and you can't really complain about how you get the rain when it does come. But we've got some really good rain falling on some areas that probably need it more so than the rest of us, at least right now. If you're in a bushland, you're probably hearing some faint rumbles of thunder. That's just due to this storm that's moving out of Boys Ranch, down Boys Ranch Highway, and then down into the northwest side of Amarillo. This is just going to be some really light rain. I don't expect it to be severe, but you might get some moderate bursts of a quick downpour out of it for, say, just a few minutes. But it could lead to maybe a couple tenths of an inch of rain in some really spotty locations. The big story will just be this stuff up here. They're still going to continue the severe thunderstorm warning up in the northeast until 1:30. It doesn't look all that impressive on radar, but they are still saying that they could see some strong wind gusts.
They're going to be issuing a severe thunderstorm warning for the northwestern panhandles there now.
Okay, so they are going to issue a new one for this up here, up towards Stratford. So this stuff is going to get a severe thunderstorm warning to it. Probably on a marginal level, I would imagine, a 1-inch hail and 60-mile-an-hour winds. Probably mostly just a wind threat. So as we get further into tonight, we actually do have a cap that's building in over the panhandles. The problem with it is it's low enough in the atmosphere, and we've got enough instability above the cap that, well, we'll still probably get some elevated thunderstorms, which will still pose a severe weather risk just because of how much instability we have. You could get some strong downburst winds out of these. This could put down a big outflow boundary, things like that, which will become the primary hazard as we get further into tonight. The wind threat will become your dominant severe weather hazard. And then you'll have that flood concern too, where some of these storms are going to produce some really high rain rates and train over the same locations. So Stratford, probably not raining just yet, but it is right knocking on your northern door. If you're going up Highway 287 towards Boise City, it's going to be a really slow go. You could be dealing with some quarter-sized hail in some of this probably, or at least some marginally severe hail, and then some
quarter-size and 60 mile per hour.
Yeah, they're going to go a standard 1-inch hail and 60-mile-an-hour winds with this next warning. It should be coming momentarily.
Yeah, kind of like the northern edge of that boundary that we were keeping our eye on. Looks like it washed out a little bit.
A little bit harder to see.
Yeah. It's still there.
It's almost like it kicked east.
Yeah.
See it just kind of, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's still here though.
It's still there. I just, we might have like an RFD surgeon. This storm right here is probably riding it. Right up here south of Boise City.
There's a new thunderstorm warning there for the southern portions of Cimarron, portions of Dallam, and even clipping portions of Sherman County. That's until 2:15 a.m.
Yep, so they're going to have that run for about an hour. Do want to zoom in again? We've got there's 2 cores of static discharges still popping up out here. So here's Potter County and Randall County. This is lightning mapping array out of Pantex, and you can see there's 2 cores in here where there's a lot of static discharges. I mean, there's like 50,000 static sources detected here within the last 10 minutes. So it's picking up on this cell right here, and it's picking up a lot of lightning densities on this cell too. So that might be some stuff that continues to develop. And we are starting to get some really light static discharges on the southwest half of Amarillo. So again, that storm's probably going to move through the southwest half of the city. Got some more development actually going up in Kansas and Colorado again. That's probably that second round that the HER's picking up on. Yeah, so just for you guys just tuned in and listening, we've got this first round of storms actually does fall apart on computer models, which I will be very frank with you, have been very horrific in terms of model guidance this summer. They've not depicted our coverage of storms or intensity of storms very well at all until last second, which we're kind of in that nowcast right now anyway. But I mean, they did okay with this stuff. The parameters are certainly there for more of a bigger MCS complex, even though it does have this stuff kind of segmented into clusters. I would expect this whole complex for the most part to persist. But once it dies out, which the latest high resolution model has it kind of dying out over Wellington and Clarendon at about 6, 7 a.m. in the morning, it won't be severe that long. But then we get a new round of storms that fire around 5 a.m. up in the Oklahoma Panhandle potentially again. This is highlighting portions of Texas County and Beaver County and the Northeast, and that doesn't reach Paducah until noon tomorrow. So, I mean, we could be still dealing with some severe weather risks through the late morning hours. So we're starting to get some more static sources detected over the north side of Amarillo right now. Right in here, kind of like from Wonderland Park to um, the north side. So we may see this still continue to fill in. It's not going to be severe, but what the lightning mapping array does is it just tells you where you're getting probably some stronger updrafts, where you're getting a little bit more, collision of raindrops, hail, things like that. Those collisions tend to spark static discharges, whether it's not necessarily a lightning strike, but the mapping array can detect that stuff. So it's actually picking up about 50,000 static discharges around Potter, Randall, and Deaf Smith County here within the last 10 minutes. And so it's pretty active. It's not crazy, but it's just just picking up on some of those collisions that maybe have allowed a couple of protons and neutrons to meet one another and make contact with each other. So it just you've probably got some rain and maybe some hail that's up there that's trying to be supported by an updraft, and so usually it's a good early warning indicator for us to potentially have new thunderstorm development is really all it boils down to. And we're just getting a lot of those discharges here kind of in this storm, and you're starting to get a few of them here out just ahead of it too. So it's probably going to at least maintain itself through the northern half of town before it potentially tries to fizzle out. But there's still even a few static discharges down here too, just not nearly as many.
Yeah, the NWS said the current plan for the severe windstorms in the Northeast is to let that expire in the next 5 minutes
Okay.
at 1:30.
So Matt's talking about this stuff up here in the Northeast. So you can kind of make up so here's the visible satellite turned infrared. So you can still see again that big complex of cells moving across the central panhandle. That's just that big anvil top from Deaf Smith County moving in. You can also see some of that stuff moving in from the Oklahoma Panhandle as well on satellite. So looks like there's another outflow boundary surging south through Dallam County too. So we may need to watch this for some additional development. So you can kind of see this right in here showing up on the last couple of scans. You're getting some outflow from some of these thunderstorms. So we'll see if it's enough to spark any new development. Doesn't look like there's much development on satellite, at least not right now, but will be something to watch through the rest of this morning. Is it really not coming yet? Just a experimental model. Hasn't popped up. This one's not doing very good at initializing either. So let's go ahead and kind of just go around the horn. You can see we've got this severe thunderstorm watch, which actually needs to be updated. This is going to be in effect until 6 a.m. today. And that covers really the whole Panhandles region. We also have the Areal flood watch. That's going to be in effect until 9 a.m. And that's just where we've got to get all of these heavier rain showers and thunderstorms making their way through the northeast Panhandle. That could lead to some, 1 to 3 inch rain amounts in a very short period of time. So that will lead to some flood concerns. So that's why that aerial flood watch is there. We still have that flood advisory until 1:45. That'll likely expire here in the next 15 minutes or so. So as far as your outlook goes for today, you can see that slight risk covers really the whole Panhandles region. Then they cut it off pretty quick as you get into eastern New Mexico. We had this listed up until 5 a.m. The watch runs until 6, but really until about sunrise is when you can expect most of that severe weather to potentially come through. So here's our newest update from the Weather Prediction Center. You can see that they do have that slight risk that covers the northeast 3/4 of the Panhandle. So slight risk just means, or that medium risk of flooding concerns. Doesn't mean everyone will deal with it, but it will be a little bit more problematic than those other areas with the low side chance in the darker green. And for Monday, we've got a general thunderstorm risk as well. So this is for today. This is the slight risk for this afternoon again. This probably runs through 6. It's
This was issued at 1 a.m.
okay. So the stuff for Monday is just a general thunderstorm risk. A lot of this probably will stem from the stuff we're seeing this morning currently. So you may start to see some really light rain here in Amarillo.
Likely maybe a little bit of gusty winds too.
Yeah, nothing severe for Amarillo, but you will probably hear some rumbles of thunder. It's just a weak thunderstorm coming across. It's nothing to be concerned for. So here's what the Storm Prediction Center is talking about for today. We'll just read it out loud so everyone can kind of hear it. Early morning MCS cluster of storms is likely going to be ongoing through the start of the forecast period from western Oklahoma into the eastern Texas Panhandle. This feature casts significant uncertainty on convective evolution throughout the day today. Across parts of Texas, Kansas, and Oklahoma. While the initial storms should slowly weaken through the morning, a convectively enhanced shortwave trough embedded within the northwesterly flow will continue southeastward, overspreading through the prior cold pool. Lift from the upper trough in the combination with strong heating and low-level moisture advection could support storm regeneration over parts of central Oklahoma, North Texas by this early afternoon. So they're talking about this group of storms right up here that's just come out of the Oklahoma Panhandle. They generally expect it to weaken through this morning as it gets into North Texas, which is not the Panhandle, that is up here, north of Dallas, Wichita Falls area. They expect it to potentially regenerate as we get into the middle of daytime heating tomorrow or this afternoon. There is a conditional risk for supercells capable of hail and damaging winds possible out west given the deep moderate instability and 35 to 40 knots of deep level shear. So that is really across the southern high plains where we live for this afternoon. So after this stuff comes through today, there's going to be more of a conditional threat for some more supercells tonight. Those would most likely be in that traditional timing, 5 p.m., 4 p.m. to initialize, and then they would persist until the late evening hours of Sunday night, maybe past midnight into early Monday morning. But I don't think that stuff's going to persist as long as what we're having this morning. So the trailing outflow from this morning's convection should gradually modify over parts of southeast Colorado and the Texas-Oklahoma panhandles. The left exit region of the 90-knot upper level jet will overspread the trough and modifying the outflow and peak heating, and this should support the isolated supercells, which will get going in Colorado and in the Texas-Oklahoma panhandles. The parameter space for large to very large hail will be quite favorable due to elongated, there's your thunder, elongated hodographs with deep layer shear 40 to 50 knots and overall instability of 25 to 3,500 joules. Mid-level lapse rates around 8 to 9 kilometers Celsius per kilometer. So there's a lot of steep level shear, or a lot of steep level lapse rates. Just supports some pretty robust updrafts, and the hodographs would support those updrafts to spin. So it would support maybe a tornado or two given the environment.
It looks like we got a
thunderstorm building right there where the Pantex LMA was depicting some of those static discharges off the north side of town.
Yeah, we got a 50-mile-per-hour gust at the Stratford observation site. That's the highest
50.
storm.
And that's the severe warned one.
Yeah. 56.
So they had a 56 gust at Stratford at the Mesonet site there. Again, that storm just got to Stratford, so we'll see if we get any higher gusts here over the next half hour. That storm's warned until 2:15 a.m. for 1-inch hail and 60-mile-per-hour winds. We do have a new updraft going up on the north side of Amarillo. You can see there's a really good source densities where, yeah, that's what we just heard. That was right. Probably struck one of the towers here outside the studio. So if you want to know what that low rumble was, if you heard it, it was a lightning strike not too far away from the station. In fact, it might have been on one of our station towers, it looks like, there in our backyard where, downtown Amarillo kind of merges into I-27. That was probably the loudest thunder I've heard in a while here. Inside, anyway. So again, we've just got this core that's going up right here, kind of over downtown Amarillo, north side of Amarillo. The general trend is this stuff continues to weaken and fall apart. Hereford, you guys will eventually see some rainfall out of this. Let's actually take a look at that camera. So there's that thunderstorm rolling in right now. This is Skycam out there near the Walmart. See that cloud base? That's pretty cool. It still looks like it's super cellular in nature. You can almost see the striations in it. It's pretty wild. It certainly still looks like it's a
The flood advisory for Hartley County will be expired.
Okay. Yeah, that's set to expire at 1:45 a.m. So not a lot of lightning in this thing, but it's got a really good looking cloud base to it. I mean, that's look at the striations in it. I mean, you can see this is just that, mothership look that you'd get in a supercell. It's got a really broad cloud base. I mean, there's no lowering underneath it or anything like that, but that's probably got some rotation in it. I mean, you can see the very faint striations. You've got this disc plate stacked up on top of it right over here. So that's your little supercell that's still moving through Jeff Smith County. It's non-severe, but yeah, it's pretty cool to see. If we look at it on radar, you can kind of tell it's got more of that hook feature on it again. So what we were just looking at was, again, this cloud base right in here. There's a cloud base, that lower cloud base there. Doesn't look like there's much rotation being depicted off of it, but from a visual standpoint, there's what the hook of that storm would look like. Is you just got this lower base here, updraft going up into the sky, and then you've got a forward flank downdraft over here where you've got all the heavy rainfall from that storm. So probably some moderate to heavy rain just north of Hereford up towards Milo Center. This storm is going to come right through Hereford, so you are going to get some really heavy rainfall out of this. From a historical standpoint, let's see how much rain Adrian had that was observed. They had about 2/3 of an inch of rain out of this little thunderstorm. So I would say that's probably about the climax of the amount of rain that you could see. The peak is a little bit more than a 1/2 inch out of this thing. So they're going to issue an SPS statement for this little cell over the city. You might get some erratic wind gusts up to 55 miles an hour. You see this stuff on here? This is for this afternoon.
Yeah. So Josiah and I were taking a look at that just a little bit ago.
We just thought he was going to miss severe weather season.
It's definitely been an active summer.
That it has. Yeah, I mean, this whole week I've been talking about it. I mean, like, I know this is something that we probably don't need to worry about in the near term, but I mean, some of these areas, like the south side of Amarillo, have had 20 inches of rain this year already. That's our annual average, and we still have August, September, October, November, December to get through. It's not going to be the wettest year on record, but it's going to be probably in that top 20 in terms of the last 133 years or so. It's been very, very wet for us. Unless like we just magically shut off all of a sudden and don't see any more rain the rest of the year. I mean, we're basically just a few inches shy of the annual average at the National Weather Service office. But you get down towards like Hereford, back over into Jeff Smith County, the south and central portion of Randall County. They've had 22 inches of rain in Canyon so far this year, 21 over in Bootleg, 21.5 in Hereford, 21, almost 22 there in Umbarger, 22 essentially in Canyon. They've had 22 in Panhandle up in here. There's a really narrow swath from Bootleg back into New Mexico, up towards like House, all the way up just underneath Amarillo to Panhandle, that have had over 20 inches of rainfall. That's allowed a lot of grass to grow in some of those areas. And really, we still see quite a bit of rain in the Canadian River Valley too, out here out west. And they've had 16, 17 inches of rain at Lake Meredith. They've had almost 20 inches of rain in Borger. They've had 18 inches in Boys Ranch. And it hasn't all come at once either. It has come in waves every week or so. Every 7 to 12 days, we have had 1 to 3 inches of rain. It's not like all of this water has run off into our tributaries, our reservoirs. Some of it has, but a lot of it has been soaked into the ground, has allowed the grass to really green up and really thrive. If you guys just kind of been looking around town, even here in Amarillo, just some of the alleyways, some of the non-maintained um, you know portions of just these open lots. They've got a lot of grass, a lot of weeds and stuff growing in them. Looks like we've got a hook there on that outflow boundary in Dallam County, something to watch.
Yeah, because that's where we're seeing kind of that boundary kind of sit there.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. If there was going to be any kind of realized tornado issue, it's going to be coming right down that outflow boundary. And that's really where this storm is at right now. So you've got this boundary here, probably getting wrapped up in here. You can see it shoot west through Dallam County and then extend south. So this is the storm to watch through the rest of this evening. Stratford, it's moving in right now. It's been raining pretty heavy there in Stratford for a while.
They got about 4/10 of an inch of rain in 10 minutes. That equates to about like 2 to 2.5 inches per hour.
Yeah, so that's going to be a pretty high rain rate there. They've already gotten close to a half inch of rain in Stratford. 4/10 measured in 10 minutes. So you're talking about 2.4 inches in an hour. And that's just with that first little cell that's come through. So here's our tornado threat for today. This probably is pretty generous. Again, we've really got that boundary kind of running down here for this one severe warning storm. That may be the one to watch for this morning's activity. As we get into the afternoon, there's probably going to be some semi-discrete or very discrete supercells out here in eastern New Mexico, Colorado, and maybe the far western panhandles that will maybe have a borderline low chance to produce a tornado over the evening hours tonight. It's not going to be a big concern because they will be very discrete cells, but it is something that we will have to watch. Just a one severe warning storm at this point in time. You're looking at storm relative velocities. Don't really see a whole lot of really tight rotation in this storm. Does look like there's maybe some anticyclonic flow inside this one. So you've got some clockwise spin here.
Yeah, that's definitely our strongest storm. I wouldn't be surprised if they extend the warning downstream. That one.
Yeah, so that one's going to be coming down through probably Cactus and Sunray. Dumas may need to keep an eye on it too. Largely looks like it's going to probably go TL's north, but you may see some additional development out here. But Sunray, Cactus, Stinnett eventually, Spearman and Groover, you guys are going to see some moderate to heavy rain at times here over the next hour or two. And then if we look up at Dodge City, you can actually see we've got, so there's a segmented cluster headed right through the heart of Kansas. We've got a small group of thunderstorms, sub-severe up there in Beaver County, up into areas like Dodge City. We've got new development out here. This is some stuff that the latest HRRR has been showing come through the panhandles as well, and some of this tail end storms like this one here over Stratford, maybe another one to watch. But our overall severe weather threat may become a little bit more limited, especially after these storms come through. The atmosphere gets a bit worked over, and so severe weather may be training over the same spots down this outflow boundary. See what it looks like in Hereford with that little storm. See, it's raining pretty good right now. Has certainly rained heavier there before, but I mean they don't need to buy water up there. Northwest Amarillo's getting a nice little shower. It's coming right kind of through town.
Had a couple drops.
It's probably raining a little better now. It won't be much, you know, probably 1/10 of an inch, I would think, at most. Is that ET or is that the rain? It rained daily. We've had 300 of an inch of rain here at the station. So it is raining out there, just very lightly. This is our biggest storm right now. Things actually are kind of quiet compared to what model forecasting was suggesting, which is okay by me. We can have just general thunderstorms through the rest of this morning. But this one's still in effect until 2:15, so we've got 25 more minutes for the severe thunderstorm warning out here in Dallam, Sherman, and the south side of Cimarron County. Cimarron County, you guys are really on the back side of the storm at this point. Still looks like that highest wind gust that Stratford had was 56 miles an hour, so we technically haven't had any confirmed observation reports of winds over that severe threshold. They do have it warned for 60-mile-an-hour winds and 1-inch hail. But as far as the strongest wind gusts that we have seen so far, that has been 56 miles per hour, which is technically a sub-severe wind gust. So this is actually coming through a really good place in terms of getting some good rainfall in areas that have missed it recently, or at least it's been a little bit harder to come by. They've only had about 9.5 inches of rain in Sunray up here, and that gauge technically is up here in Sherman County from the West Texas Mesonet site. So it's not downtown Sunray, it's north of town by several miles. But up in here, a good chunk of Hansford County's had less than 10 inches of rain. So this is good news for you guys. Hopefully it stays mostly below severe limits through the rest of this evening. They have had 0.8 of an inch of rain in Stratford so far. So that's another 0.4 of an inch in 10 minutes. So still seeing that 2.5, 2.4 to 2.5 inch rain rate per hour. Which the heaviest stuff still looks like it's actually just west of town. So it may even come down a little harder here in a minute. Could be some small hail in there. You can see maybe some pockets of hail in here depicted by the white. I do think our freezing layer is like 18,000 feet off the ground today. So I'm not overly concerned about our hail issue. It would mainly be due to supercells, just, really enhancing the size of that hail so it can survive all the way to the ground level. Um, you still probably will see some hail, just won't, I don't know if it's going to be to the severe levels. The damaging wind threat is going to be your biggest issue.
Stratford now over 1 inch of rain in 25 minutes.
So they've had over an inch of rain in 25 minutes. .07 inches of rain. We've had 500ths of an inch of rain here at the station with that tiny little shower that's come over the city. Things have quieted down quite a bit. We may end up ending your live stream here for the moment. We may just carry this just on a periodic update on social media. We still have the severe thunderstorm watch in effect until 6 a.m. I definitely think that we still need to keep a very close eye on some of these storms, especially this one down here that's still severe warned. We'll see what the National Weather Service decides to do here in 15 minutes. So if you guys want to see what it looks like on satellite, this is some of those weaker thunderstorms that are moving through Hereford right now and kind of Amarillo. And you can see we've got some much colder cloud top heights out of that storm that's moving into Sherman County. So if we're going to see severe weather, this is really the only cell I think that's going to be able to produce those severe wind gusts potentially. A lot of this stuff will probably stay below severe limits up here in the Northeast. Again, we'll just kind of be watching this little cluster right down here that's come out of the Oklahoma Panhandle. That's making its way through through Stratford there in Sherman County. That's really the only severe warned storm that we have for right now. But that's what it looks like from satellite's perspective. So you're just looking at the cloud top temperatures. The colder they are, the higher up in the atmosphere they are, which would be indicative of a stronger updraft.
So they're going to cut back Cimarron County out of that warning.
Okay, so it's going to get trimmed to just Dallam and Sherman County. So Carrick, you guys will be right there on the edge of it. If you're in between Carrick and Conrad, you'll be taken out of that warning there. Do you think we're going to end your live for the moment? Again, I think we can carry this with just some periodic updates. Looks like some pretty heavy rain there in Perryton. Some very heavy rain. We do have the flood watch is in effect until 9 a.m. today. So if you guys were curious about that, here's Hereford seeing some moderate to heavy rain right now. They've really cashed in. When I first got here, someone was always telling me that it never rains in Hereford. And this year's not the case. I can't remember who that was, but they were always chiming in about they always got missed, and I thought some of their reasoning was
they're going to be issuing a flood advisory for Stratford and surrounding areas with heavy rain, since the heavy rain's still falling, and they did lower it to about penny-size hail with that warning.
Okay, so they're just going to do it for 60-mile-an-hour winds then.
Mhm.
So they're going to lower this. The only reason that this storm is severe warned is due to the wind potential. You could see some penny-sized hail. Again, our melting layer in the atmosphere, that freeze layer, where we go from freezing to not, is at like 18,000 feet off the ground. So it's going to be really hard for any severe hail, I think, to get to the surface. But they're going to issue a flood advisory up here in Stratford. We'll continue to send you some periodic updates through the rest of this morning. Again, we still have that severe thunderstorm watch in effect until 6 a.m., but I do think we'll end your live here for the moment. If things really start picking back up, we'll jump back live again to keep you guys